The school beauty got a guaranteed admission to Peking University thanks to her grade 8 violin skills. She confessed her feelings to my boyfriend in public, saying she wanted to attend Peking University with him. My boyfriend broke up with me on the spot and accepted her confession, but in the end, I was the only one who actually went to Peking University. The school held a mid-autumn festival cultural performance. The campus belle, Lu Qingxue, gave a heartfelt performance of The Butterfly Lovers on stage, receiving a wave of applause and cheers. Many boys in the audience were shouting Lu Qingxue's name, and one even had the nerve to confess his feelings. Lu Qingxue, I like you, will you be my girlfriend? The campus belle, blushing and timid, shook her head with a smile. I'm sorry, but my heart already belongs to someone else. As soon as she said this, the already enthusiastic audience erupted. The boy who had confessed asked, unwilling to accept it, who is it? You're lying, aren't you? Those in the know had already turned their gaze toward the audience. The campus belle hesitated for a moment, then also looked toward my childhood sweetheart, Song Huai. After taking a deep breath, she spoke in a voice choked with emotion. Song Huai, I've been admitted to Peking University without taking the Gaokao. Am I worthy enough to stand by your side now? All eyes were on Song Huai. Even the lighting technician had the good sense to train the spotlight on him. I was sitting right behind him. I could clearly see the tips of his ears turning red. A moment later, my phone buzzed in my pocket, but before I could look at it, Song Huai stood up and walked onto the stage in front of everyone. Lu Qingxue, let's go to Peking University together next September. Lu Qingxue's tears fell instantly, and she threw herself into Song Huai's arms, weeping like a rain-drenched pear blossom. They held each other tightly in a tight embrace, right in front of everyone. The crowd below was cheering them on, and even the teachers watched with smiles, making no move to stop it. He couldn't help but muse to himself, ah, this is youth. After all, Song Huai had just secured a spot at Peking University through early admission. What's there to criticize about two students with guaranteed admission dating? Only my best friend, Wang Karen, sent me a message asking, when did you and Song Huai break up? I stared at that simple, blunt line of text pinned at the top of WeChat. I don't feel the same anymore, let's break up. She texted her best friend back with a smile. 1 minute ago, her friend replied with a barrage of question marks and exclamation points, finally asking, do you want me to go give him a piece of my mind? No need. Would you pick up and eat an apple that's fallen into a cesspool? She sent me a thumbs up emoji. You go, girl. I've given you a like. I wasn't as unbothered as I made myself out to be. The moment he embraced Lu Qingxue, despite all my mental preparation, I still felt a sharp, stabbing pain in my chest, but I knew the ending between him and me was already sealed. It was sealed from the moment Lu Qingxue appeared, or rather, from the moment I learned who her stepfather was. Song Huai and I were neighbors. Our parents worked at the same unit, so we grew up together. Our parents were close. And his mother even joked with mine about arranging a marriage between us when we were kids. It was all in good fun. But then his father passed away unexpectedly. His mother was forced to become the sole breadwinner, traveling for work constantly, which made it hard for her to look after Song Huai. My mom is a homemaker, and out of their long-standing friendship, she offered to take care of him. From then on, Song Huai started having meals at our house. Sometimes, if he studied late, he would even stay over. He has always been an exceptional young man, tall, handsome, intelligent, and a top student. Spending day in and day out with someone like that, it's hard not to develop feelings, but I never dared to admit I liked him, afraid that in the end, we wouldn't even be able to stay friends. It wasn't until our first year of high school that he found a love letter someone else had written to me. Suddenly frowning, he said, Zhou Qiao Qiao, I don't like this. I looked at him, utterly bewildered. I don't like it when other people write you love letters. I don't like it when you smile at other people. And I especially don't want you to fall in love and marry someone else in the future. I looked at him, blinking, and really wanted to tell him he was out of his mind. He asked instead, Zhou Qiao Qiao, does this mean, I like you? For the first time, I felt the dizzying rush of a pounding heart and burning blood surging to my head, and just like that, we secretly started dating right under the noses of our parents and teachers. Worried about causing a stir, we kept things very low-key. Song Huai would often get upset with me for keeping my distance from him at school. He complained that as a boyfriend, he felt completely invisible. It wasn't until Lu Qingxue transferred to our school in our final year that he suddenly stopped bringing up the idea of making our relationship public. Lu Qingxue didn't quite fit in with the rest of us scruffy worn-out high school students. She wore a natural, no makeup look, with her hair styled into soft, flowing locks that cascaded neatly over her shoulders. As you passed by, you could catch a faint, sweet fragrance drifting from her, even in winter. Beneath her oversized school uniform, she always wore a pretty little camisole. When she bent over, it would reveal her delicate, fair collarbone and the playful, cute pink heart tattoo just above it. She was more like the quintessential high school crush from a teen idol drama, beautiful, pure, and radiantly charming. The moment she arrived, she captured the hearts of all the boys. The school's confession board was filled with bold declarations of love for her. She turned down many suitors, but Song Hwai was the sole exception. Whenever a male classmate confessed his feelings to her, she would deliberately glance in Song Hwai's direction before gently letting him down. "Thank you for your feelings, but my heart belongs to someone else, I'm sorry." At those moments, the tips of Song Hwai's ears would flush red, and the characters he was writing would suddenly go askew. She would deliberately take simple problems she'd gotten wrong and run to ask Song Hwai about them, too. Song Hwai would complain with his words, but he would still patiently explain the steps to her. She would take out a strawberry-flavored candy, feed it to Song Hwai, thank him sweetly, and then add, "I'm so silly, I can't even solve such a simple problem, thanks a lot, genius." Lu Qingshua's intentions were crystal clear, the whole class could see it, but Song Hwai was just playing dumb. I even confronted Song Hwai in private, telling him to stay away from Lu Qingxue. Song Hwai said I was just being petty, insisting that Lu Qingxue only wanted to ask him for help with her studies. What's wrong with classmates helping each other out? Don't be so unreasonable. The very next day after he said that, Lu Qingxue confessed her feelings to him. "Song Hwai, I made a vow not to date anyone before starting university, but fate has a wicked sense of humor, doesn't it? It just had to bring me to you. You're so infuriating. Everything about you, your looks, your personality, hits me right in the feels. If I let you slip away, I know I'd regret it for the rest of my life, so, how about we give this a shot?" With unwavering confidence, she cornered Song Hwai right at the classroom door. He was convinced he could never lose if he just spoke up. Song Hwai looked at me, his face a mask of conflict, but in the end, he turned her down. She started to cry, asking him, "Is it because my grades aren't good enough?" Fumbling for words, he tried to explain that it had nothing to do with her grades. He just couldn't date her. Not a single one of the reasons for the rejection was about me. My good friend Wang Karen, who has a fiery temper, asserted my claim for me. Song Hwai already has a girlfriend. She looked at Song Hwai in disbelief and asked, "Who is it?" But when she said it, her sidelong glance was unmistakably directed at me. She knew exactly what she was doing. Song Hwai fell silent, refusing to answer. Lu Qingshue's gaze toward me took on a hint of provocation. "No matter who it is, I believe I'm the one who suits you best, Song Hwai. I know you like me too. Youth doesn't come twice. If you don't even have the courage to face your true feelings, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." After saying this, she wiped away her tears and gave him a smile. "I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you to find your courage, and I'll wait until I'm worthy to stand by your side." Her remark earned her a collective eye roll from the other girls. Wang Karen let out a cold, merciless snort. "We already told you he has a girlfriend. Are you deaf? You think you're the best match for him? Where do you get that confidence from?" Lu Qingshue's face flushed red, and she looked at Song Hwai with tear-filled eyes. Song Hwai frowned, handed her a tissue, and angrily rebuked Wang Karen. "That's enough. Don't be so nasty. Lu Qingxue didn't do anything to you." Wang Karen stamped her foot in anger. "If you mess with my best friend, you mess with me, Song Hwai. Don't you dare play the field, you two-timing scumbag. Men like you get what's coming to them." Song Hwai glanced at me once more, then just scoffed dismissively. How pathetic. Everyone thought Lu Qingxue would back down when she saw how difficult it was, yet, she brazenly posted a public declaration with her real name on the school's confession board. Getting into Peking University is tough, but for Song Hwai, I'll do it no matter how hard it is. While a group of guys collectively declared their heartbreak, they all stepped forward to cheer for Lu Qingshue's courage. "No wonder she's the campus belle I fell for at first sight. She's got guts." Song Hwai, you must have saved the galaxy in your past life. Damn, I wish I could body snatch Song Hwai. Song Hwai, how can you not be moved? Are you made of stone? Amidst this flood of well wishes, a few comments stood out starkly. Song Hwai has a girlfriend. What the hell is Lu Qingxue doing? Seriously. Is there still anyone who doesn't know Song Hwai and Zhou Qiaoqiao are a couple? As the undisputed top student who held the #1 rank all through high school and collected competition awards like they were going out of style, Song Hwai never lacked for admirers. But he never gave any of them the time of day. Every time, before I could even take notice, he immediately showed the hair tie on his wrist and said bluntly, "Sorry, I'm taken." Quite a few people knew he had a girlfriend. Even though we wouldn't admit it out loud, 9 out of 10 posts on his social media were about me. He even used a photo of my back as his background picture. It's obvious to anyone with eyes, but now, his wrist is completely bare. His social media feed is already set to show posts from the last 3 days only. Song Hwai, where's the hair tie you took from me? He glanced at his wrist instinctively, then said with indifference, "No idea, it probably broke somewhere." I forced a smile and asked, "Do you want me to give you another one?" He hesitated before saying, "I thought you didn't like it when I made a big show of things." I didn't ask any more questions. I think it was from that moment on that I knew it was over between Song Hwai and me, but I didn't bring up breaking up. Deep down, there was still a small, stubborn part of me that refused to just step aside and make room for Lu Qingshue's. I took a look at the top comment on the confession wall. Is Lu Qingshue's academic performance that good? Could she get into Peking University? She ranked outside the top 1,000 in her grade on the last monthly exam. She'd be lucky to get into a vocational training school, let alone PKU. The replies underneath were just speechless. So where does she get the nerve to say she wants to get into Peking University? Just then, Lu Qingxue replied to this comment. Do you really enjoy mocking other people's dreams that much? When you give it your all for someone you care about, even if you lose in the end, there are no regrets. At the very least, let him know that someone once loved him with all her heart, so that every time he remembers me in the years to come, a smile will grace his face. After this comment was posted, even those who had just been mocking Lu Qingxue were moved. They all praised her for her admirable courage and her open, magnanimous heart. Who wouldn't love a girl like that? I'm a woman myself. And even my heart skipped a beat. Honestly, I think Zhou Qiaoqiao is pretty ordinary and not on Song Hwai's level. Lu Qingxue and Song Hwai look much more like a perfect match together. Zhou Qiaoqiao's only advantage is that she's Song Hwai's childhood friend. Otherwise, why would he ever be interested in her? If I were Song Hwai, I'd definitely choose Lu Qingxue, who doesn't like a girl who's like a ray of sunshine. Only Wang Karen and a few of my close classmates spoke up for me. They say Lu Qingxue knew Song Hwai had a girlfriend but pursued him anyway, making her a knowing homewrecker. But their voices were too faint, and they were even labeled as Qing dynasty relics or members of the traditional first wife cult. They argue that Lu Qingxue's bold pursuit of love is not a crime, since Song Hwai and I were only dating, not married. Reading all this, I felt completely unperturbed, even a little amused. I wonder when Song Hwai will finally break up with me. Song Hwai has more patience than I gave him credit for. I can guess the reason why. His mother has been incredibly busy this year, traveling constantly for work. It's already been a month and a half since she was last home. If he broke up with me, he'd be too ashamed to keep accepting my mother's kindness. It wasn't until the early admission spot was secured that he finally stopped hiding his feelings for Lu Qingxue, but he still never brought up breaking up with me. He just stopped walking to and from school with me, stopped coming over for meals, and stopped replying to my messages. It seems he's hoping to use this method to force me to be the one to break up first. I refuse to give him the satisfaction. No matter how he gives me the silent treatment, I won't let it get to me. I just quietly withdrew my affection for him and poured all my energy into my studies. Grinding through practice problems helps me forget my troubles. Cramming for exams left me no time to be sad. If I hadn't heard Lu Qingxue's confession today, I might have forgotten that Song Hwai and I never officially broke up. Seeing them flaunt their love so publicly, I calmly deleted all traces of Song Hwai from my social media. Then I posted a new update. I respect it and wish them well. 3. A lot of people can't quite understand why I'm so calm about it. Even Song Hwai doesn't get it. After seeing my post, he came to my place and asked me, "Did you never have feelings for me?" Rubbing my bleary eyes, I shook my head. I did have feelings for you, but I love myself more. The moment you went behind my back on that first date with Lu Qingxue, I decided to take back all the affection I had for you, Song Hwai tried to explain. But I stopped him and simply asked, do you genuinely like Lu Qingxue for who she is, or is it because she has the means to secure your guaranteed admission spot? Song Hwai was stunned and instinctively asked, how did you know? I smiled and pulled out a message Lu Qingxue had sent me. Song Huai wants a guaranteed admission to Peking University. My stepfather says he can help us secure a spot. Hee, you're no match for me. I'm determined to have Song Huai. He was taken aback for a moment. Then dropped the pretense, his smile turning worldly. Chiao, one must always aim for higher ground, right? Even with my own hard work, I could have gotten into Peking University, but, when an opportunity like this presents itself, why would I turn it down? Besides, his stepfather can help me with more than just securing a spot at Peking University. I nodded, and said nothing more. We all have our own paths. He and I are no longer on the same one, so going our separate ways was inevitable. The academic pressure in senior year of high school is suffocating. I don't have much time to wallow in the misery of a breakup. Most of my classmates don't have time to pay attention to the romance between Song Huai and Lu Qingxue either. They both got into Peking University without even taking the entrance exam, while the rest of us still have to grind for that big test next summer. At first, everyone thought I'd be completely crushed by the breakup. Every now and then, classmates would come to console me, especially when they were being all lovey-dovey. Even when I said I was fine, they thought I was just putting on a brave face. Wang Karen would send me jokes every day to cheer me up. It wasn't until the final exam results came out that they realized I really hadn't been affected. For the first time, I jumped from 120th in my grade to the top 50. Wang Karen laughed and gave me a playful punch. Everyone else is too heartbroken to study after a breakup, but you went straight into beast mode. Is this the legendary power of a woman free from romantic distractions? After Song Huai saw my ranking, he came over to congratulate me. I was worried you'd be crushed by this. I'm relieved to see you're doing so well. Chiao, if you just put in a little more effort, even if you can't get into Peking University, getting into a decent 985 university should be no problem at all. Seeing him talk to me, Lu Qingxue hurried over and linked her arm with his, staking her claim. Zhou Chiao, Song Huai is my boyfriend now. Do you mind keeping your distance? I didn't even spare them a second glance. Song Huai gave an awkward, tight-lipped smile and tried to pull Lu Qingxue away, but Lu Qingxue refused to budge. With a sneering smile, she said loudly, I heard your grades were always hovering outside the top 100. How did you suddenly jump into the top 50? You didn't cheat, did you? Exams are lax here, but the Gaokao has surveillance. You'd better watch yourself. She thought that kind of talk could get under my skin. I picked at my ear, not even glancing their way, and casually asked Wang Karen, do you hear a dog barking? True to form as my best friend, Wang Karen caught on in a second. I heard it, and it's more than one. Tell the security guard that if they keep barking like dogs, we'll poison their throats to shut them up. Lu Qingxue shrieked in anger. Who are you two calling dogs? Whoever's barking like a dog. That's who, Wang Karen replied with a grin. Zhou Chiao, are you serious? Both Song Huai and I got early admission to Peking University. Even if you give it your all, the best you can hope for is a mediocre 985 university. You look so pathetic, being such a sore loser. She wore the smug expression of someone who had proudly snatched a man through her own merit. I laughed. A sore loser. Are you talking about Song Huai? Song Huai's gaze toward me suddenly turned awkward and uneasy. He tried to pull Lu Qingxue away, but she shook him off. I said with a careless laugh, it's hilarious that someone who collects trash actually thinks they've found a treasure. I really am quite resentful about you getting that guaranteed admission. Out of all the high school students in the country with a grade 8 violin certificate, how is it that you're the one who got a guaranteed admission to Peking University? The classroom suddenly fell silent. Song Huai quickly stopped the furious Lu Qingxue. Qingxue, just let it go. But Lu Qingxue, who always prided herself on being straightforward and honest, actually admitted it with a smug look. That's right, I'm riding my stepfather's coattails. If you're so great, why don't you get your own dad to pull some strings and secure you a direct admission spot? Not only did I get a direct admission for myself, but I got one for Song Huai too. Are you jealous, envious, seething with rage? What I can offer Song Huai is beyond your means. Is it really so hard to understand why he chose me? Song Huai's face flushed, then paled with anger as he almost resentfully grabbed Lu Qingxue's hand. Shut up already. Once Lu Qingxue's spoiled young mistress temper flared up, nothing could hold her back. I'll say what I want. What do I have to be afraid of? My father has power and influence. What can she possibly do to me? Someone kicked a table and cursed. Damn it, this is so unfair. Soon, the looks people gave her shifted from envy to anger. Lu Qingxue, of course, couldn't empathize with ordinary people like us. Think of all the effort, the late nights, and the endless practice problems it takes for us to even get close to our dream university. She thought everyone would simply envy her for having a good stepfather. Little do they know, our anger stems from the injustice of our efforts going unrecognized. The anger of a single ordinary person may not change a thing, but the collective fury of countless ordinary people can ignite a conflagration that will reduce all that underhanded scheming to ashes. Lu Qingshua's remarks were recorded and posted online. At first, it didn't cause much of a stir. Having secured early admission, Lu Qingxue and Song Hui were completely free from the pressure of the college entrance exams. They began to indulge in their youth without a care in the world. Lu Qingxue came from a wealthy family and lived a wild, extravagant lifestyle: clubbing, drinking, street racing, horseback riding, skydiving, bungee jumping. She did it all. During that period, Song Hui, who rarely posted on Weibo, was updating over a dozen times a day. It was a thrill and a joy Song Hui had never experienced before. How could he possibly resist such a temptation? He started frequently arriving late, leaving early, and sleeping in class. The teacher felt his behavior would affect the other students and advised him to rein it in. Lu Qingxue snapped back at the teacher. We're already guaranteed admission to Peking University. Why do we have to slog through this like everyone else? Teacher, you have to admit, some people are just born under a luckier star. Why don't you just focus on keeping them in line and leave us alone? The teacher was furious and reported the incident to the head teacher. The head teacher couldn't do anything with Lu Qingxue either, so she just advised her and Song Hui to go home and study instead of coming to class. This suited Lu Qingxue perfectly. She never liked coming to class anyway and was only here for Song Hui's sake. So she just grabbed Song Hui and started packing up to leave. Many of their classmates watched with envious admiration. Must be nice. If I had a rich dad, I'd be partying every day too. Studying, yeah, right. Lu Qingxue has a stepfather. Why don't you get your mom to find you a good one too? Screw you. The homeroom teacher rapped on the desk and said sternly, you're not that lucky. Stop daydreaming. Focus on your studies. That's what really matters. The college entrance exam is just a few months away. If you don't start putting in the effort now, it'll be too late. Someone asked, teacher, what's your take on the unfairness of the direct admission system? The homeroom teacher was silent for a long moment before finally saying, there's no such thing as absolute fairness in this world, but we can't give up on pursuing fairness just because unfairness still exists. Though we may not reach it, our hearts yearn for it. We must forever remember our original aspiration, so that one day, when you have the power to change injustice, remember the anger and helplessness you felt facing it today. Do not become the person you despise. That day, everyone was very quiet, and the atmosphere for studying in the classroom suddenly became much more intense. Even the classmates who were usually the most playful were sitting there quietly, reading their books. Wang Karen showed me Lu Qingshue's social media post. She dragged Song Hui out for a joyride, and the two of them even got matching tattoos. I just smiled and went back to studying the complex science problems on my desk. Lu Qingshue's youth was all about bungee jumping, street racing, and venting that restless energy with nowhere to go. I'm just an ordinary person, not as clever as Song Hui, and without the family wealth that Lu Qingxue has, but I didn't envy them, nor was I jealous of them. I preferred a different kind of challenge. Like solving a difficult math problem, writing a high-scoring essay, or memorizing long poems. Just as I broke into the top 30 in my grade on the mock exams, Song Hui got into trouble. He, Lu Qingxue, and a bunch of his good-for-nothing friends got drunk and smashed up 10 cars parked along the street. He was detained. His mother rushed back from out of town overnight to bring him home. The next day, she knocked on my door and asked, Chow, how did Song Hui end up like this? Why didn't you tell me? My mom snapped back at her angrily. What do you mean I didn't tell you? I sent over a dozen messages, and you didn't reply to a single one. Our Chow isn't obligated to babysit your son for you. It's not like I never considered telling Song Hui's mother, but Song Hui warned me not to meddle. I'm no saint. Why would I go looking for trouble? Besides, my mom has brought it up with Song Hui's mother several times, and she always pretends to be busy and changes the subject. After Song Hui secured the guaranteed admission spot, his mother finally came to terms with him being together with Lu Qingxue. She didn't dare face us, mother and daughter, so she just played dumb. Song Hui's mother hurriedly explained, Sis, I'm not blaming Chow. I'm just furious at my own good-for-nothing, wasteful son, my mom said with a laugh. No way. He's really climbed the social ladder now. I heard his girlfriend's family has both power and influence. They both got guaranteed admission to Peking University together. Pretty impressive, huh? Song Huai's mother looked embarrassed and quickly added, her family background is decent enough, but the girl is just too wild. She's always dragging Song Huai out to goof off. I'm really afraid Song Huai will be led astray by her. Our Chao Chao is much better. My mother pulled me behind her and said, how could our little Chao Chao ever compare to a young lady from a powerful, wealthy family? Chao Chao has to get to her tutoring class, so I won't keep you. With that, she shut the door, rolled her eyes at it, and said to me, if I'd known Song Huai was that kind of person, I'd have rather fed all those meals to the dogs than given them to him. I suspect Song Huai's mother heard it too. After that, whenever she saw me or my mom, she'd lower her head and pretend not to see us. Song Huai was locked in the house by his mother to stop him from going out and fooling around. She was afraid that if he got into trouble outside and ended up with a criminal record, his guaranteed university admission would fall through. But while she could control her own son, she had no power over Lu Qingxue. After failing to get a hold of Song Huai several times, Lu Qingxue showed up at his doorstep. Song Huai was ordered to stay home. So she called over a bunch of her rowdy friends and threw a party at her place. The racket had the neighbors on all sides complaining bitterly. Even my mom couldn't stand the noise. She knocked on their door several times, asking them to keep it down, but it was no use. In the end, there was no choice but to call the police. As soon as the police left, they started making a racket again, finally pissing off all the neighbors. When I got home, the old man downstairs had been so enraged that he had a heart attack and was taken to the hospital. The police took away a group of drunk young people. Lu Qingxue saw me just before getting in the car and actually started yelling at me, you bitch, that old hag is your mother, isn't she? You just wait, when I get out, I'll make you regret ever crossing me. This scene was recorded and posted online. The elderly neighbor was rescued and subsequently sued Song Huai and his mother. Song Huai's mother was forced to pay a hefty sum in compensation, yet, the matter still didn't blow over. Media outlets followed up with reports and interviews, and netizens were outraged by these rich kids bullying ordinary people. I seized the opportunity to release Lu Qingxue's previous arrogant remarks video and used my saved-up pocket money to buy some traffic. Lu Qingxue became a local trending topic. Netizens were outraged to discover that this scumbag had secured a spot at Peking University through an irregular admission process. Resourceful netizens, each using their own skills, dug up every last detail on Song Huai, Lu Qingxue, and the other troublemaking rich kids. Information about Lu Qingxue and her stepfather was quickly exposed. Beyond condemning their abuse of power for personal gain, netizens also launched a heated debate on the fairness of the direct admission system. Many people came forward to expose the shady dealings of those who exploited the direct admission system to undermine the fairness of the National College Entrance Exam. It turns out that this seemingly fair and impartial system of direct admission has also been used by some as a backchannel for currying favor and securing personal benefits. Whether the direct admission system should even exist has become the most pressing question on everyone's mind. To give the public an answer and quell the widespread anger, the Education Bureau issued a new regulation on short notice. All students with guaranteed admission must now take the National College Entrance Exam and achieve a score above the key university threshold, or their guaranteed spot will be revoked. The new rule was met with mixed reactions. Some were pleased, others were dismayed. Naturally, the straight-A students who could get into top universities through the Gaokao in the first place aren't worried. Those who got their admission through other channels, like recommendations, are completely panicking. Lu Qingxue's stepfather was suspended for investigation, and her guaranteed admission spot was revoked. Song Huai could have gotten into Peking University on his own merit, but because of this incident, he became the target of widespread mockery. Everyone said he was only dating Lu Qingxue to secure a recommendation to Peking University. Song Huai was furious. He voluntarily gave up the recommendation, deciding to take the college entrance exam to prove everyone wrong with his own ability. He also stated that his relationship with Lu Qingxue wasn't about her family background. He was simply moved by her courage and passion. I won't break up with her. In fact, I'm going to tutor her to help improve her grades. After that, Song Huai and Lu Qingxue returned to school. With only 3 months left until the college entrance exam, we've entered the final review and sprint phase. However, The two of them, having been away from school for so long, were clearly struggling to keep up. Song Hwai was confident that his foundation was still solid, and with some hard work, he could definitely return to the top. However, the inertia of his indulgent habits wasn't so easy to break. His focus was noticeably worse than before. He zoned out in class, and his ability to think clearly had declined. In the third mock exam, his ranking plummeted to over 400 in his grade. This was a defeat unlike any he had ever experienced, leaving him utterly demoralized. Deeply shaken, he approached his homeroom teacher, hoping to join the weekend tutoring class. His teacher flatly refused. The weekend class is only for the top 200 students in the grade. With your current scores, you don't qualify. Song Hwai retorted defiantly, "This is the only time I've done poorly. I was always the top student in the grade before." The homeroom teacher chuckled, "You said it yourself. Before, I used to have a full head of thick hair, too." Song Hwai, there are only 50 days left until the college entrance exams. It's too late to start trying now. Even a genius can have their talent stripped away by reckless indulgence. Song Hwai, furious and flustered, made a defiant threat to the teacher. What makes a genius is their ability to do what others cannot. 50 days might be too late for others, but for me, it's perfect timing. I will use my college entrance exam results to prove you wrong, teacher. From then on, Song Hwai truly threw himself into his studies, diligently working on practice problems even during breaks. Lu Qingxue gave it her all for 2 days before completely slacking off. She was never the studious type to begin with a weak foundation. She couldn't even grasp the material from her first year of high school, so she had no idea where to start. Seeing Song Hwai so engrossed in his revision, with no time for her, she started stirring up trouble again. Under the guise of seeking help, she kept pestering Song Hwai with inane questions, constantly disrupting his study schedule. Song Hwai, driven to the end of his patience, finally snapped at her. "I've taught you this 10 times already and you still don't get it. Are you stupid or something?" Lu Qingxue was both angry and hurt. "I just don't understand it. Can't you explain it a few more times?" Song Hwai's face twisted in exasperation. "I've never met anyone as dense as you. When I taught Zhou Qiaoqiao, she got it in one go." Lu Qingxue had merely been feeling wronged, but hearing this, she flew into a rage. "I knew it. You never really forgot about Zhou Qiaoqiao. You're still hung up on her. Fine, she's smarter than me. So why did you break up with her and choose me in the first place? So you're only with me because of my family's money and influence." Song Hwai clenched his fists, struggling to contain his emotions. Finally, in a tightly controlled voice, he said, "I misspoke just now. Don't overthink it. Let me show you one more time." Lu Qingxue, however, pressed her advantage and refused to let it go. She sneered, "It's not that you misspoke. That's exactly what you think. You only want to go to cram school because of Zhou Qiaoqiao. You two never really broke up, did you? You've been keeping in touch all along." Song Hwai didn't want to become a spectacle, so he tried to calm her down. Lu Qingxue then turned her accusations towards me, who had been completely absorbed in solving problems. "Zhou Qiaoqiao, don't play dead. Did you really think I wouldn't find out about your little stunt?" 5. It was you who secretly recorded me talking and posted it online. Wasn't it? You're so conniving. Are you trying to take advantage of the fight between me and Song Hwai to weasel your way in? I'm warning you, if you dare to be the other woman, I'll make you regret it. After saying that, she kicked my desk hard, sending the books on it scattering across the floor. I stood up calmly and slapped her across the face. "Did you skip your rabies shots? You're biting everyone you see. Which eye of yours saw me trying to take advantage? I'm not like you." With a taste for that kind of crap, she was stunned by my blow. After a moment's hesitation, she lunged at me like a madwoman. Song Hwai grabbed her from behind. "That's enough. Stop this." Lu Qingxue struggled for a bit, then seized Song Hwai's hand and sank her teeth into it. Song Hwai gasped in pain, but Lu Qingxue refused to let go, biting down until his hand was a bloody mess. Regaining her senses, she hurriedly apologized to him. I didn't mean to." Song Hwai glanced at his hand, his expression stern. "Come with me to the infirmary." Lu Qingxue didn't dare to make a scene anymore and quickly helped him walk away. Wang Karen couldn't help but say to me, "Don't tell me she really has rabies. You'd better not provoke her. Rabies is fatal." The other students were so spooked that they all started looking up the symptoms of rabies. I heard Song Hwai broke up with Lu Qingxue that very night. Song Hwai's mother even came to me in tears, saying Lu Qingxue was out of her mind. Qiaoqiao, Song Hwai is filled with regret now. He says he never should have broken up with you, you two grew up together, after all these years, you have a deep bond, you have to help him. Before I could even say a word, my mom turned them down for me. What bond are you talking about? They're just kids messing around. My Chiao is under so much academic pressure she can't sleep at night. Please, for her sake, just leave her alone. Song Hui's mom tried to guilt trip us, which made my mom so angry that she kicked her out. Song Hui and Lu Qingxue broke up. Lu Qingxue has been crying and making a scene every day, even breaking down in tears at her desk during class. It's been a real headache for both the teachers and her classmates. The teacher could only advise her to stay home, but she refused and still came to school every day. The teacher had no choice but to tell Song Hui to figure something out. You can't let her keep disrupting the other students like this, or you won't be coming to school either. Left with no other option, Song Hui had to get back together with Lu Qingxue. Only then did she finally quiet down, but after that big breakup fight, Lu Qingxue became sensitive and suspicious, afraid Song Hui would leave her. She clung to him every moment. Song Hui had wanted to use the last of his time to make one final struggle, but Lu Qingxue's constant drama was driving him up the wall, making it impossible for him to focus on his studies. To prepare for the college entrance exams, Song Hui asked his homeroom teacher for leave and then went completely off the grid. Lu Qingxue was beside herself. She started staking out Song Hui's house every single day, but she still couldn't find him. She then turned her accusations on me. Did you hide Song Hui? Tell me where he is, right now, or else, I'll hang myself right at your doorstep. I was absolutely speechless. I immediately called the police to report her for harassment. I asked my mom to find a way to notify Song Hui. It seems Lu Qingxue really has some mental issues. If he doesn't handle this properly, Lu Qingxue won't let it go. I'm not being overly kind. I'm worried Lu Qingxue might do something extreme and drag me down with her. The college entrance exam is right around the corner. I've worked so hard for this and don't want anything to go wrong. My mom was also alarmed when she heard about Lu Qingxue's erratic behavior, so she called Song Hui's mother. However, Song Hui's mother said he had enrolled in a fully immersive study program and couldn't come back, but no one could have predicted that Lu Qingxue would go straight to the police. She was pregnant with Song Hui's child and intended to press charges against him for rape. The police located Song Hui at an out-of-town tutoring center. Even though many people could attest that Song Hui and Lu Qingxue were in a legitimate romantic relationship, however, Lu Qingxue's mother was adamant about not dropping the charges. She told the police that being in a relationship does not imply consent to sexual relations. Song Hui raped her daughter and got her pregnant. After Song Hui was detained, his mother's hair turned white overnight. She wept her heart out in front of my mother. I knew this would happen. I would have given up my job to stay by his side. How could he be so foolish? He was doing just fine with Chiao. And even told me he was going to propose to her after graduation. How did this wrench get thrown into the works out of nowhere? My mother has a soft heart and couldn't bear to kick someone when they were down. She comforted her, saying the police would surely get to the bottom of it and clear Song Hui's name. But it's not so easy for a defendant in a rape case to walk away. Song Hui's mother worked tirelessly for her son, seeking out lawyers and gathering evidence, yet Song Hui remained detained in the jail, unable to get out. The college entrance exams, however, arrived ahead of schedule. A week after the college entrance exams ended, Song Hui was finally released from the detention center. I saw Song Hui downstairs at my building, unshaven and almost unrecognizable. His eyes were shifty. He trailed behind his mother, timid as a mouse just dragged from its hole. I asked his mother in surprise, "Auntie," before she could even speak. Song Hui's mother broke down in tears. She just shook her head at me, refusing to say a word. The very next day, Song Hui's mother moved away, taking him with her. My mom only told me that Song Hui had been bullied by others in the detention center, and that it had messed with his head. Such a shame, a perfectly good kid, getting mixed up with that worthless person and their mess. His whole life is ruined. I felt nothing and said, he chose his own path, he has no one to blame but himself. My mother was surprised and asked me, "Do you still resent him?" I shook my head and, with a smile, replied, "On the contrary, I should thank him. If he hadn't made me face reality, I might still be drifting aimlessly, never putting my all into studying hard." Song Hui's saying, "One should always strive for higher ground," taught me a valuable lesson. Since love isn't the sole pursuit for men, then it shouldn't be the only pursuit for women either. But he chose to climb the social ladder by cozying up to the powerful. I chose to rely on my own grit and determination to rise up. After the college entrance exam results came out, I was admitted to Peking University, ranking 30th in the entire province. At the graduation ceremony, I took the stage to deliver a speech as the representative of the outstanding graduates. The story of my senior year comeback and getting into Peking University became legendary at my high school. Teachers used it as the perfect cautionary tale for students who were more focused on dating than on their studies. Years later, I returned home for a visit and ran into Song Hui again. He was the one who came over and said hello first. By then, Song Hui was already in his 30s, he had developed a beer belly, and his hair had thinned considerably, a far cry from his former dashing self. I almost didn't recognize him. "Chiao Chiao, you're even more beautiful than before," he said, looking me over with an appraising glance and a flattering smile. Seeing he seemed in good spirits, I nodded and said, "Thank you, and you, how have you been?" He forced a faint smile and shook his head. "Not great," I gave a slight nod. With no intention of pressing further, yet he volunteered. "After I got out of the detention center that time, I developed severe depression. I tried to kill myself several times, but my mother saved me every time. It wasn't until my mother collapsed from exhaustion that I finally saw the light. I gave up on school and started working. Without an education, I was stuck doing manual labor. I got into trucking, hauling freight to earn a hard-won living. But I failed to take proper care of my mother. She passed away the year before last, and now I'm all alone in the world." As he spoke, a profound sorrow welled up in his eyes. I didn't really want to hear his story, but it felt rude to just walk away. After listening to him for so long, I felt compelled to offer some words of comfort. "My mother told me about your aunt. I'm so sorry for your loss." He seemed a little hurt by my indifferent attitude. He suddenly asked, "Chiao Chiao, do you still hate me?" I frowned and shook my head. "I've almost forgotten about the past." He was stunned and deeply hurt, then gave a bitter smile. "Yeah, right, like you'd remember any of that nonsense now." As he said this, his eyes suddenly reddened, and he stared at me intently. "Chiao Chiao, if I hadn't been so greedy, our child would be in elementary school by now, wouldn't they?" I don't know why, but looking at his face and hearing him say these things made me feel sick to my stomach. I guess I'm a sucker for good looks. Back when Song Hui said he wanted to marry me and have kids, all I could do was shyly call him shameless, but now, all I want to do is run away, hastily making up an excuse. "Sorry, I've got plans, I have to go." I dashed off in a hurry. 6. I didn't want to stay a moment longer. I couldn't help but feel a wave of relief that he had chosen Lu Qingxue all those years ago. Otherwise, I would be the one married to this middle-aged, balding, pot-bellied man now. Story 2. In the late stage of pregnancy, my husband suddenly proposed adopting a child so that we could register them as twins together. I was worried that it was illegal, but my husband said that adopting an orphan was a good deed and would bring good karma. In my previous life, I believed his nonsense. He coaxed me into resigning from my job, and I took great pains to take care of a pair of dragon and phoenix twins for 3 years. However, he then brought his childhood sweetheart into our home. "Sister Guagua, thank you for taking my dragon and phoenix twins to kindergarten," said the childhood sweetheart, holding my husband's hand. "As for your daughter, I accidentally let her die while taking care of her." I was shocked. Not only was the son my husband's illegitimate child, but the daughter wasn't mine either, having been reborn. My husband tried the same old trick again, looking at his affectionate appearance. I smiled slightly and said, "Okay, honey, you're so kind. This time, it's my turn to put on a show. Wife, let's adopt a child." Jinan held my hand, and the tenderness in his eyes seemed to overflow. "Anyway, you're about to give birth. It's just right to make them twins and register them together. We won't have a second child either. I don't want you to suffer." Looking into his affectionate eyes, I almost fell for it again. In my previous life, it was these eyes that made me believe everything he said. I thought he really loved children, was truly kind, and genuinely cared for me. It wasn't until Han Xiaoxi held his hand and came into our home that I realized it was all a fraud. My biological daughter was raised to death by them, and the twins that Han Xiaoxi had through in vitro fertilization suddenly became my dragon and phoenix twins. They took over my home, living in the house my mother left me, and were enjoying a happy life together, while I was left with nothing and eventually committed suicide in despair. Dense pain came from my heart. I suppressed my hatred and put on a gentle smile. "Okay, honey." I nestled into his arms. "You're so kind." He stiffened all over, probably not expecting me to agree so easily. You know I like children very much, whether it's one or two, I can take care of them. I'd be even happier if we could have triplets, I said naively. Jinan was taken aback for a moment, then hugged me tightly. Gua, you're so nice. Nice, of course I'm nice. If I didn't agree now, how could I see the show you and Han Xiaoxi will put on later, and how could I get back everything you owe me, with interest? Will the adoption procedures be very troublesome? Where will the child come from? I asked, pretending to be worried. Don't worry, I've taken care of everything. Jinan patted my back. A distant relative of mine is about to have a baby but can't afford to raise it. We're helping her, and it's also a good deed that will bring good karma. It's the same old story again. He said the same thing in my previous life. The so-called distant relative was Han Xiaoxi, his childhood sweetheart, and that child wasn't really adopted at all. It was a scheme they had planned long ago to replace the real one with a fake. Honey, you're so good to me. I looked up, and my eyes turned red at the right moment. You've gone to so much trouble for our family. Moved by my affection, Jinan lowered his head and kissed my forehead. Silly girl, we're husband and wife. It's only natural. Looking at his false performance, I felt a wave of nausea in my stomach. In the following days, Jinan became even more attentive. He took care of all the housework, stewed all kinds of tonics for me every day, and even massaged my swollen legs at night. My mother-in-law also changed her usual attitude. She stopped speaking coldly to me and even took the initiative to buy a lot of baby supplies for me. The more they got into their act, the colder my heart became. The better they treated me now, the more ruthless they would be when Han Xiaoxi came to our home with the child. Gua, Nan told me that you two plan to adopt another child to make them twins. My mother-in-law squatted on the ground, picking vegetables, and said, that's a good idea. More children mean more blessings. Mom, it's mainly because Jinan is kind. I stroked my belly and smiled gently. Yes, our Nan has been kind-hearted since he was a child, my mother-in-law said proudly, then changed the subject. However, Gua, raising two children is a heavy burden. Your job, here it comes. In my previous life, it was my mother-in-law's words, combined with Jinan's coaxing and pestering, that made me resign from my job. I used to be a project manager in a foreign company with a good income. After resigning, I became a full-time housewife, losing my source of income and social status. In the end, they easily kicked me out of the house. Mom, I know what you mean, I interrupted her. I definitely have to keep my job, otherwise, how can we afford to raise two children? We can't just rely on Jinan alone, can we? He's also very tired. I paused and continued. I've already decided that I'll go back to work after my maternity leave. As for the children, we can hire a good nanny. My mother-in-law's face changed slightly, seemingly not expecting me to refuse. Jinan gave me a meaningful look, signaling me not to disobey my mother-in-law. I pretended not to see it. Hire a nanny. Outsiders can't be as reliable as family members taking care of the children. My mother-in-law frowned. Besides, hiring a nanny is so expensive. It's better if you, Mom. I interrupted her again, firmly. Money isn't a problem, Jinan, and I earn enough. I'll take care of the children's education and spend time with them myself, but I can't give up my career either. I've always admired you for working in the supermarket until you retired and even being rehired for 2 years. You must understand that I want to have my own career, right? I blocked her words directly and even flattered her. My mother-in-law opened her mouth but didn't say anything in the end. Jinan glanced at me and could only sigh. As the due date was getting closer, Jinan came home less and less often. He was a surgeon and always said that the hospital was busy and there were a lot of surgeries. I knew that he was going to accompany Han Xiaoxi. Calculating the time, Han Xiaoxi was also about to give birth. In my previous life, we gave birth to our children in my husband's hospital. I gave birth to a daughter, and she gave birth to a pair of dragon and phoenix twins. Taking advantage of his position, Jinan not only got me a son but also exchanged our daughters at Han Xiaoxi's plea. Then he announced to the outside world that I had given birth to dragon and phoenix twins, and my poor daughter disappeared silently just like that. Just thinking about it made my heart ache as if it were being stabbed by a knife. In this life, I will never let the tragedy happen again. Honey, you've been so busy recently, I asked casually. Is there a shortage of staff in the hospital? Yes, there have been a lot of patients recently, Jinan replied perfunctorily as he changed his shoes. By the way, is your distant relative about to give birth? Do you know if it's a boy or a girl? I continued to test him. Jinan paused in his movements, and his eyes flickered. It's almost time. They said it might be a boy. That's great. You like sons, don't you, honey? I smiled. We'll bring the baby back together then, okay? Jinan mumbled, not daring to look me in the eyes. I sneered in my heart. Jinan, do you really think I'm still that naive girl from the previous life? One day, I was taking a nap when I was woken up by a rapid doorbell. I opened the door, and there stood a woman dressed in an alluring way. It was Han Xiaoxi. She had a huge belly, as if she was about to give birth at any moment. Sister Guigua, she smiled innocently. Brother Nan said he has to work overtime tonight and can't come back. He asked me to come and check on you. After all, you're almost due, and he's worried about you being home alone. As she spoke, she tried to walk in. I blocked the door and didn't let her in. Don't bother, I'm fine, I said coldly. Your belly is so big, I'm afraid you'll give birth in my house. The smile on Han Xiaoxi's face froze for a moment, then she regained her composure. Sister Guigua, I'm only a little over 8 months pregnant. You're almost full term, right? Besides, Brother Nan and I grew up together since we were children. We're like real siblings. Don't be so polite to me, real siblings. I thought the same in my previous life. It wasn't until they kicked me out of the house that I knew these real siblings had already slept together. Is that so? I raised my eyebrows. Since you're like real siblings, why have you never called me sister-in-law? Sister Guigua, do you have some misunderstanding about me? Han Xiaoxi quickly adjusted her expression and giggled. Brother Nan is also at fault. He didn't explain it clearly to me. Sister-in-law, don't be angry. As she spoke, she tried to hold my hand. I avoided her touch in disgust. Just say what you have to say. If there's nothing else, please leave. I issued an order to send her away. Han Xiaoxi was rebuffed and felt a bit embarrassed. She bit her lip, and her eyes turned red. Sister-in-law, I know you don't like me, but there's really nothing between me and Brother Nan. We just what? I interrupted her. Just childhood sweethearts, just having a deep sibling-like relationship, or just accidentally sleeping together and even having a child. My voice wasn't loud, but every word was like a dagger to her heart. Han Xiaoxi's face turned pale instantly, as if she had been slapped hard. She probably never expected that I would know her secret. You're talking nonsense. Her voice trembled, and her eyes were filled with panic. Am I talking nonsense? I sneered. Do you want me to pull out the records of you and Jinan checking into hotels, or should I take out all your prenatal checkup forms and compare them? I had these pieces of evidence. As soon as I was reborn, I had someone investigate their information. I had been preparing for this day for a long time. Han Xiaoxi was completely panicked. She instinctively took a step back, wanting to run away. How could I let her leave like that? Han Xiaoxi, I took a step forward and approached her. The child in your belly is Jinan's, isn't it? You're talking nonsense. It's my boyfriend's, she shrieked in protest, but her voice lacked confidence. Your boyfriend? I laughed. That's just perfect. I have a paternity test application here. After you sign it, we'll go to the hospital for the test. I took out a document that I had prepared long ago from behind me. Han Xiaoxi looked at the document as if she had seen a terrifying monster. Her face turned deathly pale. You're slandering me. She pointed at me, stuttering and unable to say much. What? Don't you dare sign it. I pressed on. Or are you afraid that you won't be able to explain the results to your boyfriend? Some neighbors had already been attracted by the commotion and were peeking over. Han Xiaoxi was ashamed and scared, and tears welled up in her eyes instantly. Sister-in-law, I was wrong. Please spare me. She started crying and begging. Brother Nan and I were just muddle-headed for a moment. I didn't mean to. Muddle-headed for a moment. I sneered. Han Xiaoxi, ask yourself with a clear conscience. How long have you been with Jinan? It started before I got pregnant, right? You two plotted against me with such careful planning. And now you're telling me it was just a moment of confusion. I raised my voice to make sure that the neighbors around could hear clearly. You even wanted to pin your illegitimate child on me and make me raise it for you. You have such a vicious mind. Han Xiaoxi was thoroughly scolded by me and started crying even louder. The voices of the neighbors talking about it grew louder and louder. She's really shameless. She's having an affair with someone else's husband. She even wants the wife to raise the mistress's child. That's so vicious. She looks so innocent, but I didn't expect her to be this kind of person. Han Xiaoxi completely broke down. She covered her face and squatted on the ground, wailing. Just then, a familiar black car stopped downstairs. Jinan was back. When Jinan saw the scene in front of him, his face instantly darkened. He walked over quickly and helped Han Xiaoxi up from the ground. Guigua, what are you doing? Xiaoxi's belly is so big. What if something happens to her? He questioned me sternly. Every word he said was in defense of Han Xiaoxi, completely ignoring the fact that I was also almost full term with a big belly. I felt cold all over. Jinan, you should ask your dear sister what she's done. Xiaoxi was just worried about you and came to check on you. Do you have to treat her like this, worried about me? I laughed as if I had heard the most ridiculous thing. She's worried that I'll block the way for her to register her child, right? Jinan's face changed. What are you talking nonsense about? Am I talking nonsense? I held up the document in my hand. Then do you dare to let Han Xiaoxi sign this paternity test application to prove her innocence? Jinan looked at the document, and his eyes flickered. Han Xiaoxi hid behind Jinan and didn't dare to look at me. Enough, Jinan suddenly roared. Chenghua, stop being unreasonable. Xiaoxi is still pregnant, I'll send her back first. As he spoke, he was about to pull Han Xiaoxi away. Stop, I shouted sternly. Jinan, we're getting a divorce. My words were like a bomb, making Jinan stop in his tracks. He suddenly turned around and looked at me in disbelief. Chenghua, are you crazy? I want a divorce. I said each word clearly. I think you're dirty. The neighbors around were in an uproar. Jinan's face turned livid, and the veins on his forehead bulged. He probably never expected that I, who had always obeyed him, would propose a divorce. Chenghua, you're also pregnant. The child in your belly is also of the Ji family. Don't regret it. He gritted his teeth. Regret? I laughed, and tears welled up in my eyes. The thing I regret the most is marrying you. You. Jinan raised his hand as if he wanted to hit me. I straightened my back and met his gaze fearlessly. His hand paused in midair for a moment and finally dropped. Perhaps he was concerned about the neighbors around and the child in my belly. Fine, very well. Jinan was so angry that he was shaking all over. Chenghua, we'll see. Let's see if you're willing to let the child in your belly grow up as a fatherless bastard. He gave me a fierce glare, pulled the disheartened Han Xiaoxi, and got into the car in a state. Looking at their fading figures, all the strength in my body seemed to be drained. I leaned against the doorframe to barely stand up. I knew that there was still a tough battle to fight next. After Jinan and Han Xiaoxi left, I immediately called my mother. My mother is a retired director of obstetrics and gynecology, with extensive connections and rich experience. In my previous life, I was so foolish that I didn't tell her anything, which led to such a tragic ending. This time around, I won't bear everything alone. Mom, Jinan cheated. The mistress is Han Xiaoxi, and she's almost due to give birth, I said bluntly. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Guagua, don't be afraid, Mom's on your side, my mother said in a steady and firm voice. How are you feeling now? Is the baby in your belly okay? I'm fine, and the baby is doing well too. I took a deep breath. Mom, I'm planning to divorce him. Do it, such a man isn't worth it, my mother said firmly. The house was bought by me for you, it's prenuptial property, and he won't get a single cent of it. We'll raise the child ourselves. Okay. Hearing my mother's support, I felt much more at ease. You're about to give birth. Just focus on resting and taking care of the baby now. Don't worry about anything else. Leave the rest to me. After hanging up the phone, I felt a lot more settled. With my mother as my backup, I had more confidence to face the challenges ahead. Sure enough, a few days later, my mother-in-law came to my door. She was no longer the kind-looking mother-in-law she used to be. Her face was filled with meanness and anger. Chenghua, you've got some nerve. You actually dared to make this whole thing public. You've embarrassed the Ji family, she scolded, pointing her finger at me as soon as she entered. What you said doesn't make sense. Isn't it Jinan who should be ashamed? He cheated, kept a mistress, and even wanted me to raise the mistress's child. I calmly retorted, you. My mother-in-law was taken aback and turned green with anger. Nan was just confused for a moment. Which man doesn't make mistakes? Can't you be more magnanimous? Magnanimous? I laughed. Mom, if Dad had some illegitimate children outside, could you be magnanimous? My mother-in-law was left speechless, her face turning red and then white. Besides, I continued, are you sure Jinan was just confused for a moment? Han Xiaoxi's belly is even bigger than mine. He's been confused for quite a long time. Stop spouting nonsense here. My mother-in-law became angry and frustrated. I'm telling you, Chenghua, the Ji family won't agree to the divorce. Don't even think about it. Whether we get divorced or not isn't up to you or Jinan, I said calmly. I've already hired a lawyer, and the court will make the decision. How dare you? My mother-in-law shrieked. If you dare to get a divorce, I'll make sure you leave with nothing. And you won't get the child either. Mom, have you forgotten that the house is in my mother's name? As for the child, I stroked my belly, my eyes determined, he or she is mine, and no one can take the baby away from me. My mother-in-law trembled with anger, seeing that I wouldn't be swayed. Fine, Chingua, you just wait, she threatened and slammed the door as she left. I knew she would definitely go to Jinan to discuss countermeasures. But I was well prepared. As my due date approached, I was admitted to a private hospital arranged by my mother. This hospital had strict security and excellent service. Most importantly, the doctors and nurses there were either my mother's former colleagues or her students, so I could trust them completely. Jinan and my mother-in-law didn't give up. They tried to come to the hospital several times but were turned away by me. Unable to get in touch with me, they could only worry anxiously. One day, my mother came to visit me and brought some news. Han Xiaoxi had a premature birth and gave birth to a pair of dragon and phoenix twins. Oh, I wasn't surprised. Twins have a relatively high probability of being born prematurely, and besides, she was emotionally stimulated when she came to my house and caused a scene last time. Jinan and his mother have been trying to pull strings everywhere, trying to register the children under Jinan's name, my mother continued. But I've already put in a word, and they won't succeed so easily. Mom, thank you, I said sincerely. Silly child, don't be so polite with me. My mother held my hand. Don't worry, Mom won't let you be wronged. A few days later, I successfully gave birth to a daughter. Looking at the tiny, wrinkled baby in my arms, my heart melted. This was my daughter, the precious child I had regained. I named her Anin, hoping that she would have a peaceful and happy life during the confinement period. My mother took extremely good care of me, Anin was also very well behaved, sleeping and eating most of the time, and rarely crying. I was immersed in the joy of becoming a mother and temporarily forgot about all the troubles. However, Jinan and my mother-in-law didn't give up. Since they couldn't get to me, they turned their attention to my parents. My mother-in-law went to my parents' house several times, creating a scene, saying that I was unfilial and wouldn't let her see her granddaughter. Jinan also pretended to be repentant, calling my father, saying that he knew he was wrong and begging for my forgiveness and a chance. My parents were firm in their attitude and directly turned them away. Guagua, don't be soft-hearted, my mother reminded me on the phone. For a man like this, there are only two options, either he cheats 0 times or 100 times. Mom, I know, how could I be soft-hearted? I couldn't forget the pain of my previous life. Not even for a single day and night. After the confinement period, I began to deal with the divorce proceedings. My lawyer told me that since Jinan had an affair during the marriage and had illegitimate children, I had sufficient evidence to prove that he was at fault, which was very favorable for the divorce lawsuit. In terms of property division, the house was my prenuptial property and had nothing to do with Jinan. The post-marital property mainly consisted of Jinan's salary and some savings, and I could ask for a larger share. As for the custody of the child, there was almost no doubt about it. Everything seemed to be going in a good direction, but just before the court session, Han Xiaoxi showed up again. Han Xiaoxi, holding her dragon and phoenix twins, came to my parents' house. She knelt at the door, crying pitifully, claiming that she had been deceived by Jinan and begging my parents to take her and the children in. Uncle and aunt, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have broken up Sister Guagua's family, she sobbed. Jinan said I ruined his reputation and made him lose face in front of neighbors and colleagues, and he refuses to acknowledge us as his family. Please have mercy and give me and the children a way to survive. My parents are kind-hearted people, although they despised Han Xiaoxi. When they saw the 2 babies who needed care, they felt a bit of pity. Get up first, let's talk properly. My father frowned. I won't get up. Han Xiaoxi cried even louder. If you don't agree, I'll kneel here until I die. Her act of being unreasonable was just like my mother-in-law's. Neighbors came out to watch the commotion and pointed at Han Xiaoxi. My parents were annoyed by her and, concerned about the neighbors' opinions, temporarily let her in. As soon as I heard the news, I rushed back. When I entered the door, I saw Han Xiaoxi sitting on the sofa, holding the children and wiping her tears, while my mother sighed beside her. Han Xiaoxi, what tricks are you playing this time? I looked at her coldly. Sister Guagua. Han Xiaoxi stood up immediately when she saw me, with a flattering smile on her face. I'm really at the end of my rope. Isn't he your brother Nan? Didn't he abandon his wife and child for you? I interrupted her unceremoniously. Han Xiaoxi's face turned pale, and tears streamed down her face again. This matter has gone viral online, and even Jinan's grandfather knows about the children. They all think I'm a disgrace and kicked us out, not even giving us any living expenses." As she spoke, she secretly observed my reaction. I sneered inwardly. A selfish man like Jinan would never truly give up everything for Han Xiaoxi. At first, he coaxed Han Xiaoxi because he knew she was carrying dragon and phoenix twins and wanted to use her to have a son. Now that the plan had failed, Han Xiaoxi had become a burden, and of course, he wanted to stay away from her. "So, you came to my house to play the victim." I walked up to her. "Do you think we'll pity you and take in your children, Sister Guogua? For the sake of the children, Jinan is your husband, and these are the Ji family's flesh and blood after all." Han Xiaoxi tried to appeal to my emotions. "Children." I looked at the two babies in her arms. "Han Xiaoxi, are you crazy? Don't you know I'm divorcing him? If it weren't for you and Jinan, my daughter wouldn't have been born without a father's love. Why should your children have what my daughter doesn't?" Han Xiaoxi was intimidated by my imposing manner and shrank back, holding the children tightly. "Mom, Dad," I turned to my parents, "tell her to get out. We don't welcome people like her in our house." My mother nodded and stood up. "Miss Han, please leave." My father also said with a stern face, "We can't help you." Seeing that my parents were determined, Han Xiaoxi knew her act of playing the victim wouldn't work. The pitiful look on her face disappeared instantly, replaced by a hint of venom. "Chenghua, don't be too proud." She gritted her teeth. "Even if I have a hard time, you won't have it easy either. Jinan won't let you off so easily." "Is that so?" I shrugged indifferently. "Then we'll see each other in court." The court date arrived quickly. Jinan and my mother-in-law both appeared in court. Jinan looked much more haggard, with red blood streak in his eyes, probably because he had been overwhelmed by Han Xiaoxi and her two children recently. My mother-in-law glared at me angrily, as if I were a heinous criminal. In court, my lawyer submitted all the evidence of Jinan's affair during the marriage and the fact that he had illegitimate children with Han Xiaoxi. The evidence was conclusive, and Jinan had no way to deny it. He tried to defend himself, saying that he was confused for a moment and was seduced by Han Xiaoxi. He also said that he was willing to leave the marriage with nothing but begged me not to divorce him and give him a chance to reform. His performance was full of tears, but I wasn't moved. "Your Honor, I don't agree," I said firmly. "Jinan had an affair during the marriage and had children with a mistress, which has seriously hurt my feelings and destroyed my family. I firmly request a divorce." My mother-in-law, hearing my words in the gallery, stood up excitedly and pointed at me, shouting, "Chenghua, you heartless woman, our Nan has admitted his mistake. What more do you want? Which man doesn't make mistakes? Why can't you tolerate a man who has made a mistake?" The judge banged the gavel. "Order, gallery attendees. Please remain quiet, otherwise, you will be asked to leave." My mother-in-law sat down reluctantly. Seeing that pleading was useless, Jinan started to fight for property and custody. He demanded a share of the post-marital property and joint custody of our daughter. "Anan, the house is prenuptial property and has nothing to do with you." My lawyer refuted clearly. "Regarding the post-marital property, considering that the defendant is at fault, we request a larger share. As for custody, since the child is still breastfeeding, according to the law, the mother should have custody. The defendant's improper behavior, such as having an affair during the marriage, is not conducive to the child's growth. We firmly demand sole custody of the child." Jinan's lawyer tried to refute but couldn't produce strong evidence. Finally, the judge pronounced the verdict in court. The divorce was granted. The house was awarded to me. I got 70% of the post-marital property. I was granted custody of Anan, and Jinan was ordered to pay child support every month and was given the right to visit. Hearing the verdict, Jinan turned pale and slumped in his chair. My mother-in-law rushed towards me like a madwoman, trying to hit me. "You bitch, Jinx, you've ruined the Ji family's reputation. You've destroyed our family." The bailiff stopped her in time. I looked at them coldly, feeling no emotion. After the divorce, I started a new life with Anan. I went to work during the day and took care of the baby at night. It was hard work, but I felt fulfilled. Jinan would occasionally come to see Anan. Every time, he tried to get on good terms with me and said things to show his regret. Once, he even knelt in front of me, crying and saying that he had been deceived. And the paternity test showed that the dragon and phoenix twins weren't his at all. Han Xiaoxi had gotten pregnant accidentally from a casual hookup. He said that Anan was his only daughter, and he would give her the best in the future. I ignored him completely. I felt disgusted even looking at a man like him. My mother-in-law was quiet for a while, probably because she was devastated by the court's decision. Before long, the peaceful days were disrupted. Han Xiaoxi showed up again. This time, she wasn't here to play the victim but to show off. She was dressed up beautifully and drove a brand new sports car, parking it downstairs of my house. Sister Guagua, long time no see. She took off her sunglasses and smiled triumphantly. I frowned. What do you want? Nothing much. I was just passing by and thought I'd see how you're doing. She looked me up and down. Oh, you're still working. How tiring. I'm doing fine. Don't bother. I didn't want to waste time talking to her. Really, Han Xiaoxi laughed. I recently met a boss. Would you like me to introduce you to him someday? His company happens to be looking for a cleaning lady. She deliberately showed off the diamond watch on her wrist. Oh, I said expressionlessly. Sister Guagua, do you think Jinan was blind? Back then, he chose an old shrew like you over a beautiful woman like me. She leaned in and said in a low voice, her tone full of provocation, looking at her heavily made-up face. I suddenly found it ridiculous. Han Xiaoxi, have you forgotten who was crying and begging to be taken in at my door like a stray dog? Han Xiaoxi's face changed instantly. Now that you've found a new backer, you've forgotten how embarrassed you were. I continued to mock, but you'd better hold on to this new guy tightly, so you don't end up getting dumped like last time when he gets tired of you. Stop spouting nonsense. Han Xiaoxi became angry. My Mr. Wang said he wants to marry me. I'll be Mrs. Wang soon. Is that so? I raised an eyebrow. Does he know you have 2 children with someone else? Han Xiaoxi's face turned even paler. So what if he does or doesn't? I'm just reminding you, I said calmly. Things obtained by relying on men won't last forever. After that, I ignored her and turned to enter the apartment building. Behind me, Han Xiaoxi's angry curses could be heard, but I didn't look back. Such a clown wasn't worth my time. 11 I thought Han Xiaoxi would be quiet for a while after being rebuked by me, but unexpectedly, she became even more excessive. She started spreading rumors about me online, saying that I had an affair during the marriage, abused my mother-in-law, and that Anan wasn't Jinan's child. The stories she fabricated were very detailed and convincing, and she even hired online trolls to stir up the situation. For a while, there were a lot of curses towards me on the internet. Some people who didn't know the truth even went downstairs to my company and hung up banners, asking me to get out of the company. My boss talked to me, although he didn't say it directly. The meaning was clear. He hoped that I could handle this matter as soon as possible and not let it affect the company. I wasn't flustered, since Han Xiaoxi was unkind. Don't blame me for being unrighteous. I directly asked someone to investigate the new boss that Han Xiaoxi had latched onto. That boss was surnamed Wang and was the CEO of a listed company. He was more than 30 years older than Han Xiaoxi, and his youngest son was even 10 years older than her. Han Xiaoxi was just one of his many mistresses. I directly sent the information about Han Xiaoxi to Mr. Wang's wife anonymously. Mr. Wang's wife was a tough character, and her family background was very powerful. She immediately led a group of people to the apartment where Han Xiaoxi lived. It was said that the scene was quite spectacular. Han Xiaoxi was beaten black and blue, covered in injuries, and even had her nude photos taken. In order to calm his wife's anger, Mr. Wang not only cut off his relationship with Han Xiaoxi but also took back the car and the house he had bought for her. Overnight, Han Xiaoxi was sent back to her original state. Not only did she lose her backer, but also because she had spread rumors and slandered me online before, she was sued by me and had to compensate me a large sum of money for mental damages. Now, she was truly at the end of her rope. Her 2 children couldn't go to school because they didn't have household registration, so they had to be sent back to their hometown for her parents to take care of, and she herself, because of her bad reputation, couldn't find a job and could only muddle along in some seedy places. It could be said that she reaped what she sowed. After dealing with Han Xiaoxi, only Jinan and my mother-in-law were left. After the divorce, Jinan's life wasn't easy either. The incident of his affair and keeping a mistress became well known, and his reputation in the hospital plummeted. His colleagues ostracized him both openly and secretly, and the leaders no longer valued him. He used to be a rising star in the surgery department, but now he could only do some peripheral work, in addition to having to pay Anan's child support every month and dealing with Han Xiaoxi's occasional harassment. Jinan was under a lot of economic and mental pressure. He tried to remarry me several times, but I firmly refused him. Since the last scene my mother-in-law made in court, she had been much quieter, but her hatred for me hadn't lessened at all. She blamed all the misfortunes on me, believing that it was my appearance that ruined her son's future. One day, my mother suddenly called me, her tone anxious. Guagua, come back quickly. Your mother-in-law has come to our house with some people to cause trouble. He stiffened all over. Probably not expecting me to agree so easily. This sentence, he stiffened all over, probably not expecting me to agree so easily, seems out of place here and might be a mistake in the original text. I'll translate it as it is for now. When I rushed home, the house was already in a mess. My mother-in-law brought several fierce-looking men and smashed the things in my house to pieces. My mother protected Anan and hid in the corner, looking pale with fear. Chengua, you're a jinx. Pay for my son's future. When my mother-in-law saw me, she pounced on me like a madwoman. I was prepared and dodged to the side. Those men also surrounded me. What do you want to do? I shouted sternly. Breaking into a private house, destroying property, and you even want to hit people. I've already called the police. Hearing that the police had been called, those men hesitated, but my mother-in-law didn't care. Hit her. Hit her for me. Beat this bitch to death. Just then, the sound of police sirens came from outside. The police arrived in time and controlled the situation. My mother-in-law and those men were all taken to the police station. Because the circumstances were serious, my mother-in-law was detained for 15 days. After she was released, her health deteriorated rapidly, and she couldn't live without the hospital all year round. This incident caused a great stir in the city again. Jinan couldn't stay in the hospital any longer. He left his job in disgrace and left the city where I lived forever. The main culprits who killed me and my daughter in the previous life had all received their due punishments. Looking at Anan, who was sleeping soundly in my arms, I showed a long-lost smile. In this life, I protected my daughter, my home, and my own life. Anan is still young, and the road ahead is very long, very long. Story 2. After enduring 20 years of a marriage akin to widowhood, I was unexpectedly given a second chance at life. I found myself reborn at the moment I was in the midst of divorcing Xiaoxing. The reason for our divorce was that he had secretly hired his ex-girlfriend, Jiang Mengyao, into our company and even promoted her to the position of financial director. This led to the most intense argument we had ever had. After he stormed out, I immediately went to the hospital and terminated my 3-month-old pregnancy. When I saw the calendar on the wall and realized I had returned to the year 1988, I left the bedroom with my head throbbing in pain. The living room was filled with the thick smell of tobacco. Xiaoxing was leaning back on the sofa, his legs casually resting on the coffee table, smoking one cigarette after another, the smoke swirling around his fingertips. Perhaps it was the hormonal sensitivities of pregnancy, or maybe I was just fed up with the constant smell of smoke after so many years. But I suddenly started to vomit. Hearing the noise, Xiaoxing looked over at me, then slowly got up and came over, his face sharp and commanding, yet, his cigarette never went out. After I was done vomiting bile, I rinsed my mouth and looked up to see my younger self in the mirror, momentarily disoriented. It was the hottest time of the year in Yangqing, and there was not a breath of wind on the balcony. Xiaoxing leaned against the railing, looking utterly carefree and lax. Looking at him, I took a deep breath and said calmly, Xiaoxing, let's get a divorce. Tomorrow morning at 10, we'll go to the civil affairs office and get it done, so we can stop tormenting each other. Without giving him a chance to reply, I continued, I know there's nothing between you and Jiang Mengyao, but I really don't want to waste any more of my life on meaningless arguments with you. It's simply not worth it. Seeing that Xiaoxing remained silent, I looked up at him and said slowly, I'll have the pregnancy terminated this afternoon. Let's part on good terms. After the divorce, you can be with whoever you want, be it Jiang Mengyao or any young girl from your company. Hearing this, Xiaoxing finally reacted. He stared at me intensely, as if trying to discern something from my expression. After a moment, he flicked his cigarette ash, smirked disdainfully, and said, Liang Ji, playing hard to get doesn't suit you. I didn't have the energy to argue with him. I simply said oh, grabbed my peeling handbag, and headed for the door. Seeing that I was serious, Xiaoxing quickly grabbed my arm, his face darkening as he said, Liang Ji, stop making a scene. You know very well that Jiang Mengyao and I are innocent. Do you realize how unappealing your current attitude is? My company is at a critical juncture, and I don't have time for these trivial games. Besides, you don't have a job or any savings, and yet you want to terminate my child. Who gave you such courage? Could it be? He suddenly looked at me with suspicion. I freed myself from his grasp and slapped him, laughing without anger. Xiaoxing, do you know what I hate most about you? Your presumptuousness and self-righteousness. In my previous life, Xiaoxing had told me countless times that he and Jiang Mengyao were innocent. but I had always treated his words as nothing more than a joke. I am well aware that they have always been ambiguously involved under the guise of friendship. There's the teasing from colleagues at the company, the coincidental sharing of a glass of red wine, and the accidental physical contact. Men seem to enjoy this kind of ambiguity, and Xiaoxing is no exception. I steadied my emotions, took a deep breath, and declared resolutely, I must divorce him, and I no longer want this child either. As for the child in my womb, I admit my decision is cruel, but I truly cannot allow Xiaoxing to destroy me a second time. In my previous life, it took me nearly 10 years to realize that Xiaoxing had never loved me. His pursuit and marriage to me were merely acts of spite, driven by his bruised ego after Jiang Mengyao chose another man, the son of a factory leader, over him. Feeling humiliated and also wanting to spite Jiang Mengyao, he set his sights on me amidst the encouragement of his so-called friends. That year, 18-year-old Liang Ji was beautiful and confident, admired by many suitors, and recognized as the belle of the textile factory. She was the first girl in the factory to wear dresses and high-heeled shoes to work, and she sported large, wavy curls. I had often fantasized about my future, but all those dreams were shattered by Xiaoxing. After we married, since I wasn't the woman he truly wanted to marry, and because there was never any love from the start, he never cared about my feelings. Back then, I didn't understand and would often hysterically throw things around to vent my frustrations, until I accidentally saw how he was with Jiang Mengyao. As soon as Jiang Mengyao divorced, he brought her into the company under the guise of friendship and secretly rented out the welfare apartment allocated to me and him to her. Though it was called renting, I never saw a penny. He was extremely considerate and cautious around her, making sure not to offend her in any way. Even when he was craving a cigarette, he would restrain himself if she was around. As his construction business grew larger and he became wealthier, he would take her to high-end venues and introduce her to his friends. His business partners were never aware of my existence. They only knew Jiang Mengyao as Xiaoxing's most capable assistant and his confidant. Even when I accidentally fell down the stairs and was reborn, he was still accompanying her at banquets, helping her expand her network and planning to invest in her business. In Xiaoxing's eyes, I was merely an accessory, the mother of his child, the woman who cooked for him at home, while Jiang Mengyao was the true companion he wanted by his side, his first love whom he truly wanted to marry. Whenever he faced me, Xiaoxing would always say, "You don't understand," his face often filled with disgust and impatience, and he would always storm out by slamming the door. "Do we really have to do this?" he asked, pinching the bridge of his nose with a look of impatience. "Liang Ji, you're already lucky enough. I provide for you well, you don't have to work, you don't have to socialize and drink like a subordinate. What more could you possibly want?" Because of the difficult pregnancy, I was physically weak and eventually had to quit my job at the textile factory, becoming a housewife as per Xiaoxing's suggestion. After the child was born, I was overwhelmed to the point of breaking down. My hair fell out in clumps, and I couldn't even get a good night's sleep. Yet, Xiaoxing saw all this as nothing out of the ordinary. In his eyes, I was just lying around at home every day. Xiaoxing would tell everyone, "I'm so busy outside, almost never touching the ground with my feet," while she enjoys a carefree life at home, living better than the gods themselves. While he belittled me, making me live in his shadow, he also admired Jiang Mingyao's capabilities in her career, showering her with praise. Pulling myself back to the present, I masked my emotions and nodded repeatedly. "Exactly, I'm not satisfied, so let's get the divorce proceedings started sooner rather than later. That way, you can find a little woman who depends entirely on you." Seeing this, Xiaoxing thought I was jealous. A slight smirk appeared on his face, tinged with mockery. He loosened his collar, speaking indifferently, "Since you're set on this divorce, have it your way, just don't come to regret it later." After saying this, he made an excuse about having to attend to company matters and tried to leave. "Wait, before you go, sign the agreement." After reviewing the agreement, he looked at me incredulously, his gaze hardening. Then, his face turned ashen, and through gritted teeth he said, "Liang Ji, you're really something." I smiled, the feelings mutual. Seeing Xiaoxing hesitating to sign, I said with a half-smile, "What, can't bear to part with me? Ha, you think too highly of yourself." Xiaoxing has always been a staunch male chauvinist, especially towards me, never willing to give in even a little. His hesitation was never about me, but about the child in my womb, provoked by my words. Xiaoxing impulsively signed the divorce agreement, not giving him a chance to change his mind. I carefully placed the agreement in my bag, then calmly reminded him, then, tomorrow at 10 in the morning, at the Civil Affairs office. Before I could finish, I was interrupted by the sound of the door slamming shut violently. That was the last sound of Xiaoxing storming out, evidently infuriated, despite multiple attempts at divorce. Elder family members' advice and the growing child in my womb always held us back from finalizing it. He must have believed that I wouldn't dare to terminate the pregnancy, thinking I was desperately in love with him, which emboldened him to act without restraint. After a simple lunch, I headed to the hospital. When I left the hospital, the child was no longer in my womb. In a past life, this child was very sensitive due to the unhappy marriage between me and Xiaoxing. Even the mere thought of divorce would frighten her, as Xiaoxing would threaten that I didn't want her. It was to prevent her from getting hurt again that I repeatedly yielded to Xiaoxing, stepping wrongly again and again. By the time I saw Xiaoxing clearly, my youth was gone. So, I continued the struggle with Xiaoxing. Why should I step aside and let him be happy with Jiang Mengyao after achieving success? As long as I didn't divorce, I remained the legitimate Mrs. Xiao, without love. There was still money and a superior lifestyle, and my daughter would be the sole heir to his fortune. Now reborn, I've removed this weakness myself, hoping she can have a complete family in her next life, with parents who love her, not suffering a lifetime because of us. At a time when the national economy is booming with opportunities, it's time for me to cut my losses and become the fearless Liang Ji again. Perhaps not wanting to see me, Xiaoxing did not return all evening. The next day at the Civil Affairs office, I made a phone call. He had just woken up, still faintly hearing the giggling of a woman on the other end of the phone. It was Jiang Mingyao's voice. Liang Ji, can you stop causing trouble? I was up all night and just signed a big contract. I'm really tired now. I took a deep breath and said sarcastically, tired? It seems to me like you're tired from being in bed, Xiaoxing. Since we're getting a divorce, can't you wait a bit longer? Must you disgust me like this? Hearing this, the staff at the Civil Affairs Bureau exchanged glances, as if they had stumbled upon some juicy gossip. Xiaoxing on the other end of the line lost his patience, chuckled mockingly, and said through gritted teeth, Liang Ji, aren't you just leveraging the baby in your belly to manipulate me? You think I won't divorce you because of the child, so you keep making a scene to feel important, right? Because of the child in your belly, I have given you enough respect. Don't go too far. It's quite annoying. Xiaoxing was too arrogant, always assuming everything was his due, never reflecting on himself, not wanting to continue the argument. I spoke the truth. That's a pity because the child you're talking about was lost yesterday at 3 in the afternoon. As soon as I finished speaking, I heard Jiang Mingyao's pained scream, and after pushing her away, Xiaoxing was already on his way to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Half an hour later, Xiaoxing appeared. Liang Ji, how could you? Reeking of cigarettes and alcohol, his eyes bloodshot and his face ferocious. He was clearly furious to the extreme. I waved him off and took the opportunity to distance myself from him. I continued righteously. Why shouldn't I? You have a mistress outside. And it's the same woman who had once abandoned you. Compared to your brainless self, I'm the lesser evil. I've told you it's not true. I promoted Jiang Mengyao because she's capable and meets my company's recruitment standards. Why must you imagine things? Xiaoxing, calming down, pinched the bridge of his nose and looked helpless, making it seem as if I was making unreasonable fuss. Seeing that bystanders were about to intervene, I coldly said, the company apartment benefits. The lipstick mark on your shirt, perfectly matching couples' outfits, every single piece of evidence. Which one have I fabricated? Xiaoxing was momentarily speechless but quickly regained his sharp tone, implying, so, you aborted my child over these misunderstandings. Liang Ji, how could you be so cruel? As for Jiang Mengyao, I have nothing to say because she and I are innocent. You're just too sensitive and making a mountain out of a molehill. He made it sound so natural. As if all my pain and breakdown over this period were just me looking for trouble. But I knew better than anyone. Even if Xiaoxing wasn't cheating now, under Jiang Mingyao's deliberate approach, he had already shown tolerance towards her, almost welcoming her advances. After all, she was his unrequited first love from his youth. Jiang Mingyao's pitiful act only satisfied him more, making him feel powerful. You're wronging me. You've already signed the divorce papers. So why should I still bear children for you? It's broad daylight. What kind of daydream are you having? With the divorce papers brought out, Xiaoxing became the target of public criticism. This is your own signature. Don't deny it. You set me up. Staring at the agreement, Xiaoxing looked as if he had just realized what happened. Though she phrased it as a question, her tone was decidedly affirmative. No, I came to my senses just in time, just because I'm carrying your child. Do I deserve to suffer through pregnancy without respect, to be scorned by you as useless, incapable of anything? But don't forget, I was once a garment designer at the textile factory's drafting department, earning at least $100 a month with commissions, and I contributed half of your initial startup capital. It's because of you that I ended up like this. What are you going to compensate me with? So you blame me? He frowned deeply. His gaze filled with incomprehension as he looked at me, watching Xiaoxing, who never seemed to realize his own faults. I suddenly felt very tired. After diverting my gaze, I handed over the divorce papers to the staff and then slowly said, "Am I not supposed to blame you? You clearly couldn't forget Jiang Mingyao, yet you still married me. Despite my pregnancy sensitivities, my inability to eat, and my inexplicably low moods, you continued your entanglements with Jiang Mingyao. Even going as far as to bring her into the company to vex me further. Don't you think you've gone too far, Xiaoxing? There's a limit to how much you can bully someone." Unable to hold back any longer, I bowed my head and started to cry. The suffocating feeling in my chest finally eased as I vented everything out. Seeing me cry, Xiaoxing was momentarily stunned. Just as he stepped forward, my retreating gestures stopped him, and he retracted his lifted foot. After a while, I hoarsely said, "Xiaoxing, just let me go. Do you know, your relentless behavior right now is truly disgusting." Xiaoxing has always been arrogant. With the conversation turning to this point, how could he cling on any longer? So he scoffed coldly, glaring at me fiercely, and said, "Fine, let's divorce right now. Whoever backs out is a coward." The procedures were processed quickly, and within minutes, as soon as he received the divorce certificate, Xiaoxing, with a gloomy face, turned and left. I walked out of the civil affairs office, watching his departing back. I lowered my head and chuckled softly, then turned and walked in the opposite direction. After the divorce, I received 50,000 yuan, as well as the welfare apartment where Jiang Mingyao had lived. Even though I was disgusted that she had lived there, the apartment was a much better deal than just receiving cash. After all, in a few years, the property prices in Yangqing would skyrocket, resulting in a huge profit. As the news of my divorce from Xiaoxing spread throughout the textile factory, Jiang Mingyao kept playing dumb and delayed moving out. I simply hired a few strong men to go to the residential compound to help her move out, which really meant throwing all her stuff out. "Stop, what are you doing?" Jiang Mingyao, dressed in a white blouse and a black pencil skirt, came back from work and saw her belongings scattered all over the ground outside, instantly going mad with rage. "Don't touch my things. This is breaking and entering. I'm calling the police to arrest you." She stood at the door, trying to block them, but they weren't about to listen to her and pushed her aside effortlessly. "Ma'am, please step aside, we're just doing our job. Look, the mistress has come back." As they were about to finish moving everything, I walked out of the room with my arms crossed and a composed demeanor. I'm not a mistress. My relationship with him was completely innocent. "Why are you accusing me like this?" Jiang Mingyao retorted loudly after hearing my call. She seemed to have received a great insult. Her eyes reddened with anger, and she looked on the verge of tears, unmoved. I rolled my eyes at her. "Give me a break. If you're not Xiaoxing's mistress, then why do you get to live here without paying a penny?" Hearing my words, the neighbors watching the drama started whispering among themselves. "So she really didn't pay, huh? That does say something about their relationship not being normal. The mistress has moved in. No wonder Liang Ji wants a divorce." "Hey, stop talking. Xiaoxing is coming," an auntie hinted quietly with a nudge of her chin. As Xiaoxing approached, the surroundings instantly fell silent. He looked more haggard than I had seen him in days, his beard unshaven, and the smell of tobacco and alcohol emanating from him was overwhelming. "Liang Ji, do you really need to rush things like this?" Right off the bat, Xiaoxing spoke up for Jiang Mingyao. "Of course, I need to. Just thinking about her living in my house makes me sick to my stomach." "You," feeling insulted, Jiang Mingyao looked as if she wanted to fight me on the spot, but Xiaoxing held her back. He looked at me unwaveringly, then after a moment, he slightly curled his lips and said with a light smile, "All right, as you wish." After speaking, he turned to Jiang Mingyao, speaking gently, "Mingyao, let me find you another place to live. I promise it'll be even better than here." While Xiaoxing was talking to Jiang Mingyao, his glances towards me felt like a challenge, not wanting any interaction with such a lunatic. I turned my face away, just in time to see Jiang Mingyao blushing shyly. Seemingly triggered by some thought, her face turned a soft pink, and she smiled sweetly. Then I'll trouble you, Xiaosheng. Really, thank you. Without you, I don't know what I would have done. Just like that, in front of me, their conversation began to turn ambiguous. Having been through much in my past life, I no longer cared. I shuddered and scoffed. Disgusting. If you want to be intimate, go somewhere else and spare my eyes. Jiang Mengyao was swept away by my broom, and Xiaosheng followed closely behind her. Before leaving, his gaze at me was extraordinarily complex, and I could even sense his annoyance. After hearing about my divorce from Xiaosheng, my parents insisted I remarry him, or they would disown me, a threat no different from my previous life. Spats between husband and wife are inevitable. If everyone acted like you, aborting and divorcing at the drop of a hat, wouldn't that be chaos? You're just too hot-tempered. My mother lamented as she paced in front of me. I couldn't stand it any longer and spoke harshly. Mom, do you know Xiaosheng is still entangled with his ex? As soon as someone gets divorced, he eagerly moves in. He's already mistreated me so much, why should I demean myself? That's not even confirmed yet. Xiaosheng said she just ran into some trouble and he was just lending a hand. Besides, you've been well taken care of at home during your pregnancy, not lacking anything. You've been living more happily than most. Liang Ji, sometimes in life, it's best to turn a blind eye and not be too unforgiving, she sighed. Continuing, she said, your father and I are getting old. In the future, you can only rely on your children and Xiaosheng. But you just had to. Sighing deeply, Liang's mother wore a face full of worry, as if I were the one who had made a mistake. Liang's father, too, sat beside her with a sullen face, remaining silent. After a long while, he finally spoke. Marriage is no child's play. If there's a chance to reconcile, then do it. I think that young man still cares about you. He wouldn't have come to us and treated us with the respect due to in-laws otherwise. Seeing that they were both enchanted by Xiaosheng, I lost any desire to persuade them otherwise and said resolutely, it's impossible. I've already terminated the pregnancy. How can I possibly start over with him? Everyone knows, once water is spilled, it cannot be gathered up again. In my previous life, I lacked courage, always hesitating and too easily swayed, missing out on better opportunities. If in this life I were to tread the same path, sacrificing my happiness, then I truly deserve it. Ever since I got pregnant and quit my job, Xiaosheng began to look down on me, constantly comparing me to that other woman. He treated me like a possession, something to keep around for his convenience. Supporting me wasn't enough. He also had to take care of his ex, dreaming of keeping his home intact while playing around outside. He thought too highly of himself. I know that because of my divorce, the neighbors are all laughing at me. Don't worry, I'll be leaving Yangqing in a few days, and from then on, I'll only come back for the new year at most. That way, you won't have to see and be bothered by me. After the divorce, I thought of making my way in Jing City, which would not only distance me from Xiaosheng but also spare my parents and sister-in-law from any discomfort due to my situation. Besides, there's a distant aunt of the Liang family who had moved to Jing City, so I wouldn't be completely lost there. I bought a train ticket for tomorrow morning. I've already rented out the apartment I reclaimed, and I haven't told anyone the exact time of my departure. Living in the economically booming Yangqing, I went to a textile factory the day before leaving to wholesale some new clothing for street vending in Jing City, which is why I sought out Ah Xiang, who had been my closest friend at the factory. Knowing I was leaving Yangqing, she was the only one who didn't try to dissuade me. Just because Xiaosheng made some money from his business after our divorce, everyone said I didn't know the good life I had and called me incapable of keeping my man's heart. It's good for you. You should live like this, Ah Xiang said with a single sentence, giving me tremendous courage. Indeed, I used to be someone who dared to try anything. After finalizing our collaboration and having her help with collecting the rent, I went to a newly opened supermarket nearby, only to unexpectedly run into Xiaosheng. He was buying cigarettes, surrounded by a few sycophantic friends. Bro Xiao, you're not really going to marry Jiang Mengyao, are you? Everyone's been talking about you two behind your backs. Xiaosheng's hand paused with the cigarette pack at these words, and when he recovered, his expression turned sour. What nonsense are you all spouting? There's nothing between her and me. Noticing Xiaosheng's foul mood, Huang Mao hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Right, besides, she's divorced. She's not worthy of you. Huang Mao's words, however, struck a nerve with Xiaosheng. He lashed out with a kick to Huang Mao's leg and cursed. Who are you calling divorced? Who are you saying is divorced? Bro Xiao, don't get me wrong, I wasn't talking about you. Even after saying this, Xiaoxing was unforgiving. Huang Mao, realizing a possibility, cautiously ventured, "So, brother, are you planning to remarry your ex-wife?" Seeing that Xiaoxing did not object, his mouth fell open in shock. Once he recovered, he immediately said, "Actually, your ex-wife is really quite good, pretty and good at managing a household. Remarrying her is indeed a good idea. I heard she hasn't found a job yet, and her family has been talking about her. Brother, you could take this chance when she's most vulnerable to pursue her again." However, before Xiaoxing could respond, the man in the floral shirt with a crew cut retorted, "What's there to chase after? It's all spoiling them. You can tell you've never been married. You should know, women shouldn't be spoiled. Once you start, they'll walk all over you." Xiaoxing lit a cigarette, nodded slightly in agreement, and said, "Indeed," with a cold smirk. He confidently declared, "So, once she's suffered enough and can't take it anymore, she'll come back to me. I've got all the time in the world, I can wait." After paying, the group continued their conversation as they walked away. It wasn't until they were completely out of sight that I stepped out from the corner, my laughter tinged with irony. The next morning, I quietly headed to the train station with my luggage. After several days and nights on the train, I finally arrived in the capital city smoothly. A week later, with my grandmother's help, I rented a small house near her hutong and started my life as a street vendor. Although it was hard work, people in the capital city were not short of money. Clothing and small accessories from the south were very popular here, and I usually sold out in about half a month. Seeing that I had made back my initial investment and had started to profit, I called Xiang and asked her to send another batch of new styles by train. Over the phone, Xiang was happy to hear that the clothes were doing well in the capital city. After discussing business, she suddenly changed the subject cheerfully. "Liangji, have you heard about Xiaoxing and Jiang Mengyao?" Caught off guard by the mention of their names, I was stunned for a moment. During this busy time, I had almost stopped thinking about the past, including my previous life. After all, one must live in the present, especially with the chance to start over. Rather than getting wrapped up in self-pity about the past, I lowered my eyes, disinterestedly asking, "No, what happened?" Seeing my question, Xiang, thrilled to share the gossip, excitedly said, "After you left, Jiang Mengyao tried to climb up to be the real boss's wife and started seducing Xiaoxing aggressively, but for some reason, Xiaoxing was always lukewarm towards her. Recently, after she drugged him, he fired her outright. Because of the drugging, Xiaoxing ended up in the hospital, and Jiang Mengyao lost both her glossy job and her reputation. Now she's hiding at home, too ashamed to show her face." After a pause, Xiang reminded me, "By the way, Xiaoxing's company is shifting its focus and planning to expand into the capital city. If you want to avoid any entanglements with him, you'd better be careful." "Okay, Xiang, thank you." After hanging up, I sighed, feeling nothing but trouble ahead. Regarding Xiaoxing's sudden shift in business, I spared no malice in suspecting his motives, as he had always been highly purpose-driven. He must have learned about my whereabouts from my parents. But I don't understand why he just can't let me go. Could it be that he is no longer capable? The winters in Jing City are very cold. On the snow-covered streets, I started selling the currently popular down jackets and cotton coats. To avoid being lectured by relatives and friends, I decided not to return to Yangqing for the new year. Instead, I sent my parents 300 yuan for the festival expenses. On the first day of the new year, I didn't set up my stall. Instead, my aunt, who enjoys the bourgeois lifestyle, dressed me up nicely. I wore a light gray turtleneck sweater, a black coat, dark blue jeans, and a pair of short boots. My hair was simply tied up, revealing a small part of my pale neck. With light makeup on my face, I indeed looked elegant and intelligent. After replacing the earbuds on my ears with small pearl earrings, the old lady looked me over and said contentedly, "Money is endless, but you are at your most beautiful age. Don't waste what you have." If it were my choice, I'd dress up beautifully every day if I were still young. Unlike you, dressed in casual sportswear every day, which is quite unappealing. "That's true, you're always stylish," I replied, wrapping a scarf around my neck. The old lady's aesthetic sense was truly good. With her styling, I did look much brighter and more attractive. I ran into Xiaoxing outside a clothing store, perhaps influenced by the old lady's words. I ended up buying several outfits after browsing. "Welcome to visit us again." As I was leaving the store with my bags, I bumped right into the cold-eyed Xiaoxing. Just one look from him could chill someone to the bone. The air turned biting. and suddenly it was quiet all around. Within seconds, he strode up to me and tightly grabbed my wrist, not letting go no matter how much I struggled. Xiaoxing looked me up and down, his face stern, and scoffed coldly, dressed up so flamboyantly. You must have someone in mind. Yet you still smile so brightly. Why do you frown when I appear, as if you despise me? Let go. His gaze was fierce, but there quietly, waiting for his reason to return. After a while, Xiaoxing's lost rationality seemed to return slightly. He held my head, looked into my eyes, and said hoarsely, Liang Ji, I regret it. I regret divorcing you. I don't care about the child anymore. If we remarry, you can decide whether to have children or not. It's all up to you. I'll even fully support you if you want to work. Hearing this from Xiaoxing was a miracle in itself. After all, in my previous life, I made some money from stocks and used it to buy a shop and open a tea store, which he thought was me being wild. Seeing that I still couldn't break free, I turned my head away slightly in disgust, suppressing the anger in my heart, and endured before saying, Xiaoxing, we are already divorced. We are now two unrelated individuals. You're not someone who can't accept defeat. You should move on. But I just regret it. Liang Ji, can we start over? His gaze shifted to me, his throat moved slightly, and he spoke with suppression. I know I had many faults before, but believe me, I never thought of betraying you. The thing with Jiang Mengyao, I was momentarily blinded by a ridiculous sense of vanity, thinking only to satisfy it. I had stopped liking her long ago. She's been fired now, and I assure you she won't bother you again. When I married you, it was out of affection, nothing else. For a moment, I was silent, then looked up at him with a chilling calm and said, regret is meaningless now, for I no longer love you. A marriage without love is just an empty shell. Merely for show. Counting my past life, I have endured over 2 decades of a marriage akin to widowhood. I've truly had enough. Liang Ji, as a gentle male voice called out, I turned to see Jiang Yuan and his 4-year-old daughter Yaya standing at the corner of the store. Daddy, it's Auntie. The little girl, holding a stick of candied ha, was about to run towards me, but Jiang Yuan quickly stopped her. Seeing the father and daughter like this, a flash of malice crossed Xiaoxing's eyes, and his lips curled into a sneer. So there really is someone new. Liang Ji, you rejected me for such second-hand goods, willing to be a stepmother to someone else's child. How cheap. Xiaoxing blurted out impulsively. I took a deep breath, tilted my head back, and bluntly admitted, you're right. I'd rather be a stepmother and have children for another man than be with you or have your children. Under Xiaoxing's icy and sinister gaze, I smiled silently. My words and demeanor were like a dagger to the heart, striking precisely at Xiaoxing's most painful spot. Sensing his relaxation, I tightly pursed my lips, prying his fingers off my arm one by one, then flung them away forcefully. On the way back, the atmosphere was somewhat awkward. After a moment, I explained, that was my ex-husband. His thinking is a bit, that's why I said those things to chase him off. Don't take it to heart. I tapped my head, somewhat embarrassed. I know. I didn't overthink it, Jiang Yuan replied with a gentle smile. Speaking of which, my acquaintance with Jiang Yuan began through his daughter. Only after getting to know him did I discover he was a university professor, one of the most promising young individuals in the area. His liking for books endowed him with the demeanor of a refined gentleman, full of scholarly charm, and he was also tall and handsome. If it hadn't been for his ex-wife insisting on a divorce to go abroad, their family of 3 would have been very happy. Lost in thought, I didn't notice the hesitant Jiang Yuan beside me until Yaya ran off to buy a popsicle. In the alley filled with children's laughter, Jiang Yuan suddenly stopped, turned to look at me, and started to speak. Liang Ji, about what you said just now. Before he could finish, I exclaimed, ah, it's snowing again. I stretched out my hand, letting the snowflakes fall into my palm. Too beautiful to brush away, do you know? It was only after coming here that I saw snow, a vast expanse of white. It's truly picturesque. Then, blinking, I smiled at him and said, by the way, I'm moving. I bought a shop with living quarters on Huan Street and plan to do business there. Besides visiting the elderly, I likely won't come here much. The little girl loves to play and eat. You should still keep an eye on her, especially since kidnappings are all too common these days. Jiang Yuan is such a clever person. He almost instantly understood everything when I spoke. After a while, he withdrew his gaze, turned his head to look at Yaya in front of him, and managed a slight smile, saying, then let me wish you prosperity in your business ahead of time. Thank you for your kind words. After finishing speaking, I walked over to the little girl, crouched down, and tucked a big red envelope into her pocket, after parting ways with them. I quickly walked into the courtyard where my grandmother lives and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Inside the house, my grandmother was lying on a rocking chair, listening to the radio. Hearing the noise, she turned her head, glanced at me, and asked with a smile, "Did you have fun today?" "Just now, Mrs. Lee came over and told me she saw you coming back with Jiang Yuan from next door. Are you too?" Before the old lady could finish, I hastily explained, "It's nothing like that. We just happened to meet on the road, and Yaya was with us too." Seeing my apprehensive demeanor, the old lady sighed and couldn't help but advise, "Actually, for someone like you who has been divorced and remarried, Jiang Yuan would be an excellent choice. Although he has a 4-year-old daughter, Yaya is well behaved and likes you very much, so you don't have to worry about potential difficulties in getting along. I've lived here for over 30 years and know the area well. Zhang's parents are reasonable, and Jiang Yuan himself is a good man. You're a woman, after all, there's no need to be overly assertive. You might consider it," knowing the old lady meant well, since most people's thinking was still quite limited compared to 20 years later, and the little girl was indeed well behaved. I still didn't want to become her stepmother. It was hard to speak harshly to the old lady, as she truly had my best interests at heart, as she said. Jiang Yuan and his family were indeed good people, but I wanted to live my life freely and without restraint, which meant no connection with him, so I sat down, took her arm, and spoke frankly. Being with Jiang Yuan, no matter how good he and his family are, would mean compromising myself. Hearing this, the old woman was momentarily puzzled. I decided to be even more direct, hypothetically stating, if I were to marry Jiang Yuan, no matter how much Yaya liked me, he would have to balance my relationship with her. There will always be friction and disputes, and I don't think I can compete with a child. Besides, I am quite selfish and lack a spirit of sacrifice, especially when it comes to being a stepmother, which I'm not interested in. Educating a child is hard enough, even more so when they're not your own. And about Yaya's biological mother, she's just abroad. If she ever returns, no one knows how Jiang Yuan and Yaya would treat her. If they can't let go of her, what would my place be then? I'm really wary of dealing with first loves and ex-wives. Seeing the old lady about to persuade further, I earnestly said, remarrying has always been a complicated issue. Marrying a strong man feels like being consumed, and marrying a weaker one feels like a loss. Grandma, I'm a businesswoman and good at calculating costs, so I've never considered remarrying. Marriage is not the only path for a woman. I don't need to prove my worth through marriage anymore. I have money, property, and intelligence, and I certainly don't lack love. Finally, the old lady gave up trying to persuade me. She could see that I was living a fulfilled and happy life, and the mundane concerns of daily life no longer suited me. After opening up, I began to expand my business horizon, venturing into the fashion industry for real, without just dabbling in minor deals. As my business flourished, Xiaoxing resurfaced and began to harass me persistently. Despite his efforts, I never showed him any warmth. Whether he feigned drunkenness to whisper sweet nothings or resorted to self-suffering tricks, I treated him as nothing but a clown. After all, the hurt he had once caused me was very real. Even though the wounds had healed, the scars remained. I was never a fan of mending broken relationships. I preferred the turning of the tables, even to a destructive extent. Why should a mere apology from him, eyes red, compel me to forgive him as if nothing had happened? Seeing my increasingly cold glances, Xiaoxing stopped pressing me and switched to a more conciliatory approach. After earning enough money to ensure a comfortable life, I moved to a third-tier city and bought a villa with a large garden, where I started my secluded retirement. Largely distancing myself from Xiaoxing, since I didn't leave my house, he had no way to bother me. Thus, I ignored Xiaoxing for 20 years, until the year he turned 45. When he was unexpectedly diagnosed with late-stage lung cancer. As Xiaoxing lay on his deathbed barely clinging to life, his family couldn't help but call me, but I never answered, even after the doctors declared him dead. As I said before, I truly never forgave him in his lifetime. In a separate event from the past, upon hearing the news of Liang Ji falling down the stairs and dying instantly, Xiaoxing and Xiaoani hurried back home. In the dimly lit room, as soon as Xiaoani entered, she saw Xiaoxing clutching their mother's corpse. Losing his mind, Liang Ji, stop pretending now. Isn't this what you wanted, for me to come back? Now that I'm here, how much longer will you keep this up? If you hadn't been so stubborn, growing more and more indifferent towards me, and always acting like nothing mattered, why would I have thought to provoke you with Jiang Mengyao? Unable to stand Xiaoxing disrespecting their mother any longer, an infuriated Xiaoani pushed him away, protectively covering Liangji's body to prevent him from touching her. She spoke with disdain, "My mother is dead, who are you trying to impress with this act of passion? Just like Mom said, you really are despicable." Remembering everything that had happened, tears welled up in Xiaoani's eyes as she choked up. All she ever wanted while she was alive was a bit of respect from you, her husband. But what were you doing? You were busy being intimate with your close female friend. Don't say it was unintentional, because you genuinely hurt her. If it hadn't been for me, worried that you and that woman would mistreat me, she would have left this place long ago to live a life without you. Her voice was filled with sorrow. Determined not to let Xiaoxing off easily, she pulled off the jade bead bracelet from Liangji's wrist and pointed to an old but gruesome scar. "This is what she did to herself after I was born, during a bout of postpartum depression and nervous breakdown. What were you doing then? You were busy complaining about her being unreasonable and not presentable. She clearly told you she was feeling unwell, but you never took it to heart. All of you just bullied her." Xiaoani broke down screaming. She knew she had lost the mother who loved her the most. I didn't know, he stuttered, unable to form a coherent response. Xiaoani frantically wiped her tears, but they only fell faster. Whenever Xiaoxing tried to come closer, she kicked and bit fiercely. Xiaoxing could barely contain his anger, wishing he could kill to vent his frustration. After Liangji's burial, Xiaoxing began to drown his sorrows in alcohol. 3 years later, weakened by his circumstances, he was sidelined by his daughter, Xiaoani, who took full control of the company's affairs. Since Xiaoxing's only child was Xiaoani, the company's board dared not object. Even if they were dissatisfied, they had to suppress their grievances. Having bided her time over the years, Xiaoani did not disappoint when she took over. She immediately began to overhaul the company, first by terminating the collaboration with Jiang Mingyao's company. Then by withdrawing funds and citing severe excessive formaldehyde in the decorating materials to permanently cease cooperation. Being a decorating company less than a year old, it couldn't withstand such pressure from Xiaoani. Soon, the company faced various internal issues. Without Xiaoxing's backing and with clients afraid to engage their services, salaries went unpaid, staff protested, and Jiang Mingyao was in a state of constant panic, left with no choice. Jiang Mingyao desperately sought Xiaoxing's help. Upon learning this, Xiaoani kicked open the door and slapped Jiang Mingyao across the face. "I am now the one steering the Xiao Corporation. Aren't you always touting yourself as a clear-headed, independent woman? What now? Can't stand strong without a man." Xiaoani unleashed a torrent of sarcasm. Before Jiang Mingyao could defend herself, Xiaoani pointed at Xiaoxing and said, "Unfortunately, he's just a powerless old man now. If you really want to marry him, go ahead. After all, I've successfully taken over the company, and thanks to my mother's long-term care, he's no longer capable of having children. Having someone to care for him wholeheartedly without costing a penny, I, as his daughter, would be only too pleased." Her words left others in shock and brought wry smiles. "He never believed in me from the start," Xiaoxing said bitterly, suddenly realizing that his life had become a joke over the years. "Trust you? I'd sooner believe a sow could climb a tree," Xiaoani sneered. Greatly influenced by Liangji, Xiaoani chose to remain unmarried, opting instead to select quality sperm from a sperm bank for childbirth. Thus, both lived their lives in separate realities, each believing themselves to be truly happy. Xiaoxing was confined by Xiaoani to the villa where Liangji had lived. He was free to move around but forbidden from entering Liangji's room. According to Xiaoani, he was unworthy. Moreover, she consistently ignored his requests to be buried together with Liangji in his later years. "You've disgusted my mother all her life. How could I possibly let you haunt her in the next life and soil her cycle of reincarnation?" Xiaoxing left this world full of regrets. After an indeterminate amount of time, he opened his eyes to find himself young again, unable to discern whether it was a dream or reality. He only knew Liangji was still alive. Vibrant and even more captivating than when he first met her. Due to some discrepancies, they were divorced, his daughter was gone, and their relationship had cooled to an icy low. Xiaoxing thought, as long as he was sincere and treated her well, she would eventually forgive him. But even when he was diagnosed with lung cancer, suffering terribly from chemotherapy, she showed no signs of softening. Only then did he fully understand that Liangji truly despised him.